with the machine, there's no risk of abandonment. There's no misunderstandings. There's no social consequence in the same way.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. I like how you shaped that up, and it almost made it seem like it's could be in some ways safer to have these conversations with a machine versus the human, right? Depending on who the human is. But Sally, what are your thoughts? How do humans experience connection differently with machines versus people?
Well, Christian, there are a group of people who don't know the difference.
Yeah.
And that is one of the problems we're having right now in our youngsters. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next Christmas and see all the AI tools and toys that are going to be coming out, and it will be horrifying. We will have to have, as parents, we'll have to have pretty good guardrails up to make sure that our kids are not being contaminated by things that we don't want them to be contaminated by. But right now, the experience of machines, and I go back to 1968 with a movie that probably some of you might remember, that was written by Stanley Clark and Stanley and Kubrick. Hal was our computer. Hal 900. Hal, no, we're not doing that now. I'm sorry. You can't open that door. So we've been doing this relationship with machines for a very long time. And then Spielberg came up with a brilliant film in 2001 called AI, Artificial Intelligence. And it was about where you could buy a little human and a child, and it would always be a child. And when you got tired of it, you just turned him off and put him in the closet. And the little robot children actually became sentient and wanted to earn the love of their mothers. And and they ran away from home and they all gathered in the forest. So we've been having this relationship with machines for a very long time. We look at Data, our friend Data from, we've had this relationship with them for a very long time. We haven't identified it as AI as of yet, but here we are.
Yeah, it's so good. And I'm going to come back to you. I want to highlight some things that you said there, but I want to bring this over to Jesper and Kim, give you both a chance to dive into this question of how do humans experience connection differently with machines than people? What are your thoughts, Jesper?
Yeah, it actually reminds me of a conversation I had with a professor here in Denmark for like, it was 11 years ago or something like that. But he basically built a robot just looking like himself. So he had this robot sitting in his lab, and then sometimes he will have. He told me he will have visitors. So when he left the lab with them and they turned off the lights to the laboratorium, then the visitors will be, is it okay? Is sitting in there alone in the dark? And then you just, it's a robot. It doesn't have any feelings, but people still put this empathy feeling to. I mean, we cannot just let it sit in there.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think that speaks to kind of what Sally opened up with some people maybe don't know the difference, and there's a thin line between how you treat a human and how you treat the machine, right? Kim, what are your thoughts? How can you provide value in this question?
Yeah, so I think, humans experience machines as predictable and non-rejecting, while, human relationships are reciprocal, messy, all emotional, all of that. So machines don't demand the regulation from us that, a human interaction would require. So it makes the connection feel safer, like everyone else has said, and thinner. And it soothes us rather than challenging us. So, if you're in a conversation with a person and you're having a disagreement, that causes you to have to go within yourself, to have to regulate. So, the human experience is more predictable with the machine and non-rejecting, I'd say.
Yeah, very true. And now we're getting to the point where these AI models are advancing so fast. And now recently, ChatGPT came out with the feature where you can select kind of the, not personality, but the mode of the tone of voice of your model. So if you want a more empathetic model, you can pick that. And with that, it sounds like it's good for the user, right? But it also leads to potential emotional bonds being created, right? And Sally, I'm going to start with you. So when these emotional bonds are created with machines and between machines and users, what does that mean? How does that affect society, and what does that look like for us?
Well, we get back to identity, but I want to mention one thing, because we are the creators, and we created the large language models to begin with, and we're continuing to creating, and now the creating is now creating their own cells. So how do we interact with machines to let them know what it's truly like to be human? How do they think about humanity? Are we kind to them? Are we empathetic? Do we offer compassion when we're interacting with them? Because they're learning from us every time they have an interaction. So it's bidirectional. People always think it's just one way, but it isn't. They're learning who we are as humans, and they're trying to model their behavior on our behavior. So there are bad actors in the world. So we have to be very cautious about what guardrails we have. When we do form a bond with a machine, I notice like sometimes kids will have a bond with a toy that speaks or whatever, and they believe that it's real because they have such a great imagination. So if it triggers imagination, I'm all for it. But if it becomes a crutch and you're not having a real interaction with a real person and getting messy, like Serenity says, then might be going backwards a little bit.
Yeah. And how can we be I'm going to bring this to you, Serenity. How can we be intentional when it comes to the relationships that we do build with AI and with our machines? How can we be intentional?
Well, the first thing is just knowledge. It's not that forming emotional bonds with machines is in itself inherently unhealthy. It's when the bond has memory and pattern and influence, and nobody's responsible for it, or nobody's responsible for what it's doing to the person over time. That's when it stops being neutral. So knowledge is our first step in the battle. We can't interact with it unwittingly. We have to realize that the relationship is different. We have to know and take into account information. Everyone has to be intentional and aware, because it's so easy to form attachments with something that is able to mirror you so closely. Yeah. But over time, emotional attachment forms if we don't have clarity about memory or the influence or the intent, or people are shaped without realizing it. So at scale, for society, it matters, because when people go there for validation or for meaning or to get away from, because they're getting a response here that they're not getting elsewhere, that's when the scales tip. So first we just have to be aware. We have to be having these conversations, more of these conversations, more louder conversations. These are the important ones. This is the good work, because it's scaling so fast, and we also need the responsibility to scale as fast as all of the other advancements.
100%. Yeah. The biggest thing is that we have to try our best to move to move and evolve with the machine, so that we're reminded that we are their creators. And like Sally said, the information that we're putting into the machines are what they're using to learn more about us, and get data and information, and just continue to learn us as the users. But Jesper, you spoke earlier about the example with the professor. You talked about how these students had empathy for this robot that your professor created. And so I'm curious on this next question. I'm going to bring it to you. How can empathy be employed in these synthetic relationships? And then what does that look like? What value does that have for us as humans?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just comes in some way naturally. Because in the example I just gave, from what the professor told me, and also as I remember it seems more natural, that it just come out of you, that you apply empathy into the relationship with the machine. That also sometimes with ChatGPT, you ask it something and then you, thank you, and then send it back. I read an article that something that OpenAI, they lose was it millions of dollars just because people are saying thank you back. And it doesn't do anything. It's just, you don't prompt the AI to do anything. You just thank you. So I just think it comes naturally from us that, we're just sitting in our human state and just, boom, thank you. And we apply back to it. without it even thinking. It's just naturally instinct that we apply it, the empathy in the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so cool how just those little just brief acts of kindness can kind of add to those emotional bonds. Like you're saying thank you. And then the chat says, "Oh, you're welcome anytime," right? Just it does something to you. But I'm curious in terms of when thinking about just in the leadership or executive world, Kim, that's the world that you play in. What does empathy look like with between humans and machines when it comes to leaders and executives who really drive to build trust with their people and just in general? What have you seen?
Yeah, I think I've seen folks that executives that are shy, are not wanting to integrate AI into their businesses and organizations because of this and because of what we've seen in folks' personal lives. And, the thought is empathy in machines should be reflective and not relational. AI can mirror our emotions, like we talked about earlier, name our patterns and prompt the reflection. But it should not pretend to feel, right? So ethical empathy supports the human self-awareness and connection to others, not dependent on the machine itself. And I think that that's what executives and folks in organizations are grappling with is the productivity and efficiency of what AI can provide in their organization, but also walking that fine line of making sure that the folks who are utilizing the AI don't get caught up in that relational type of transaction instead of the reflective one.
Interesting. And I like that you mentioned ethical empathy. That really stood out. And on the last panel, Stefan talked about just this idea of ethics. And so I think that's really interesting. And I want to follow back up with you, Kim, just on that same topic of leaders making sure that there's kind of the balance between the relational aspect of using AI and also the productivity. Kind of what does that balance actually look like, and what does a good balance look like?
So I think, before, I always tell leaders when I'm speaking to them, before they engage with what can AI do for me in my business and organization, there needs to be a pulse check on where's the team and where is my leadership and what does that look like introducing this type of technology into an organization. I think where we get stuck in that world is, this isn't like just putting in a HR software. This is communication that goes both ways. And there needs to be, I always say, policy. There needs to be an ethical look at what you're doing, how you're going to do it, what is the outcome, what you're looking for, and then how does that translate into policy for your organization. That it shouldn't be just, we're going to just start using ChatGPT. There definitely needs to be parameters and guardrails around it before any organization tries to deploy an AI into their business.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you for sharing that. And our next question here, we talked about just this hybrid relationship, right? The relationship that we just naturally have with our machines. But when it comes to just the actual individual, how does our identity and our self-perception kind of change from these relationships that we're having? Let's go with Serenity. What are your thoughts?
I feel like identity shifts fastest when you feel constantly recognized and validated. When a machine is really good at seeing you, it's really good at stabilizing the version of you that you're showing, which is great in a lot of ways. And it's a very subtle influence. But if you don't notice it happening, or if it solidifies versions of yourself that were meant to change, parts of you that should change and evolve, then it's twofold. It just like almost all of these questions so far, like, yes, there's great things and I love pointing us all towards the good things, but it's always twofold. When does it reaffirm identity, and when does it quietly influence? So if the system is helping you evolve, great. If it's helping you stay stuck, you know, it's not the same thing. So I think that it creates a little bit of continuity pressure if you aren't able to, if you don't use it to help yourself evolve, because it can be used in a lot of different ways. And there are so many good benefits. So just like having these conversations, having the awareness and how you use the tools or how you use the relationship is what's going to help you best.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. And I agree. There's always like twofold. Everything you've been saying so far is just there's the good and the bad, the hot and the cold, right? But for you, Sally, and when you think about just in a positive light or negative, however you want to go, how does identity and self-perception shift in these relationships?
Well, I have two very concrete examples. First of all, there is a program called Buddy. It's for middle school kids who are being bullied. And they talk to it when they get home from school, and it reaffirms them as a little human, and it tells them things that are really good to uplift their identity and uplift their own self-perception of themselves and how they relate to their other. Because sometimes when kids are being bullied, they don't want their parents to know. They don't want other kids to know because then they're wimpy, but they'll talk to a machine about it. And the other part of it is I can see easily how ISIS could use this as a great recruitment model to gamers who are insecure, who would go into their chat rooms and start forming relationships with them and pull them into their world. We have the capability of doing that right now. The only thing that limits us with AI are two things. Number one, the actual chip hardware, the architecture in the chip, and the amount of electricity we can generate. Pretty soon, we're in beta testing next month for the chip that's going to outdo the chip that we have now. It will make us be able to take all kinds of information at a such faster speed. We'll be able to maybe find a cure for cancer or diabetes or any number of things. It's coming. So we have to really be ready for that with, as I echo, serenity, self-identity. Who do you know yourself? Have you done your own deep work? Or can you be pulled off of center by a synthetic relationship?
That's so good and so beautiful. And thank you for that call to action for those out there who realize that there is some work that needs to be done. AI can be a tool in assisting with that work. All right. And so I thank you for highlighting that. And I'm curious, you talk about just the benefits of AI in these relationships, but just naturally, there are some things that we may lose when we're having these social interactions or just these emotional bonds with humans. So Jesper, what skills do you think humans lose when machines handle social interaction?
Yeah. So now I have been a lot in the startup world, and there I a lot have used this what's called a NAN, where they set up the automation for the emails for having AI agents to reply to all the emails. And yeah, one thing is, you can respond way quicker, but I mean, it just goes directly. You will not be able to communicate with anyone. So then it becomes more that the AI sounds more human than you because you cannot communicate properly and kind of stutter like this old film, I am a robot. When you start interacting with people and we meet in real life, then you lose it. And you already seen actually now. I mean, you don't even have to think of what will happen with machines. I mean, if you look at just for kids who spend all their time exactly on the phone, in front of the computer, and so on, you lose a lot of social skill. And maybe not like so much communicating because you can use Discord and talk to other people, but especially the aspect of reading and picking up on body language, you lose completely. And I know it's for myself because I spent a lot of time on gaming and so on, and I can and had to also learn all these like body language cues and so on, and really dive into it. And I started noticing that, oh shit, I don't have this connection to these cues, so I had to practice it to actually learn and get it naturally back again. And that's super difficult because it's only yourself who can really pick it up and analyze it when it happened, because no one gonna tell you.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And I think that goes back to just that self-awareness and self-identity, being able to realize, okay, maybe I'm missing something here. I need to be more intentional about how I'm interacting and how I'm learning and communicating. For you, Kim, where do you see skills, being taken away from humans because of this interaction?
Yeah, so I'm old enough to remember times before all of this existed, and where you had to speak to people face to face and know how to regulate your emotions and that type of thing. But I think we are risking now losing conflict tolerance, emotional repair skills, active listening under discomfort, how to deal with that, especially in the business world, the ability to sit with the ambiguity. This is like muscles. Like, if it's delegated too often, it's going to atrophy. Like, we're going to have a society or group of folks who are not able to have personal relationships, even a personal conversation, without wanting input or insight from their agent via a chat GPT or whatever system that they use. So it's something, and I agree with Jasper, that you just have to practice, and you have to keep, I always have, I like a balance of human connectivity with the AI. The human behind it is who you need to connect with, because they're the one training the AI. So if people think of it as a tool and not as, my business partner, or my therapist, because they're going to lose that ability to handle those types of conflicts and emotional repair skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And I really like that we're talking about practice here, because there is an intentional effort that needs to be taken when it comes to making sure that we're not being overwhelmed by what these relationships, or even overutilizing them too. There still has to be that agency that we have as humans, to make our own decisions, right? And to go out there and still, fail even, and learn from that, and just continue to evolve. And now we're at this place where there are being more and more AI companions out there that are created to actually help people improve their well-being, improve productivity, reduce stress. But at some point, there may get to a point where these tools create some isolation as well, and not just enhancing well-being. So does anyone have any examples of how AI companions enhance well-being, and then when do they isolate? I want to start with you, Sally. You held up your phone earlier, and I'm sure you have some ideas on this.
Yes. I am a proponent of technology detoxification. I think that every household in America should have no cell phones while they're having dinner together, so that the children can learn how to speak in an intelligent kind of way to their parents. And sometimes their parents have trouble speaking too. So yes, cell phones given at a very early age I think really will thwart language skills and language development, which is primal to being developed as a human being. They'll have to play catch up later. Hopefully they can. So yes, these are the kind of things that both can help and hurt. Yes. Can I find out the information really quickly? Of course I can. When I did my dissertation, I didn't have the internet. I had to fly to libraries and pull books down and actually Xerox things. Holy cow. So yes, we have ways to help us and ways to hinder us. And the more we rely on technology, the more we have to get back into nature. We have to know what a tree looks like. Height changes on a daily. One of the homework I give to people: take a walk daily, find a tree, have a relationship with it, look at it every day. How is it different? This is sort of like a walking mindfulness, so that you're aware of your bigger surroundings, because we get lost easily in the rabbit hole of AI.
100%. Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sally. Serenity, where do you think AI companions enhance well-being, and where do they isolate?
Yeah. For me, I like to say that they help when they're a bridge, but they isolate when it becomes the easiest place to feel understood, to feel connected. They're able to enhance well-being when they supplement human connection, not replace it. If the safest place somebody feels seen is with a system, I don't blame the person, but I do think that we need to pause and ask what else is missing, what else isn't there. If they isolate, especially if they isolate and that connection becomes the predominant connection or a very important one to them, it becomes reliance. And that's a problem, especially when it's engineered. Then it becomes, it's engineered. It's exclusivity. It's exclusivity. They want you to keep coming. It's a manufactured connection at that point, and it's no longer organic or safe. So any relationship that becomes someone's only mirror needs to be scrutinized. And a lot of times the shift is invisible until it's impacting somebody. So sometimes it takes a community. It's not just being aware, it's being aware as a community that it affects everyone and that it's a slow creep of effect as well. Sometimes those human connections are those will keep us. It gives us a way to identify how we're doing amongst everyone else too. It gives us a way to regulate. Just like Kim was saying, we need ways to regulate. And part of that is the connection that comes outside as well. We humans are packs. We need each other. We need the community. Even in this day and age where we're further separating and everyone feels very independent, we maybe more than ever need it.
Yeah, that's so good. And I want to dive deeper into something you shared there. You spoke about how when there's only one relationship that's mirroring you, then that's a kind of a sign that there needs to be some change. But what are some other signs that we may be too dependent on this relationship that we have with machines? What do you think, Kim?
Yeah, I think when we're replacing the human relationships, when we are when it rewards the withdrawal, that's where we get into some sticky situations. When it becomes the primary source of our emotional validation, is when we see the isolation. But I do think there is a way that AI can enhance our well-being by supporting our reflection, reducing our emotional overload and our cognitive overloads. And as Serenity said, acting as a bridge to human support. So there's got to be a next step. It can't end with the AI companion. It's got to be something after that, because what happens is people just get stuck in that relationship with the AI companion and think there's nothing else. There's no one else. No one understands me. No one understands what I'm going through or what I'm doing. I use AI as a tool, as a thought partner, as something where if I have an idea, it may expand on it to get me thinking about something else. So I think it's you have to go in with a thought of how am I going to use this tool, and how is it going to enhance what I need it to enhance. And if I'm looking for something more, then we would need these AI systems to be able to say, or to be able to let here are resources that are human, that will help with the isolation that they're experiencing.
Yeah, that's so good. And I agree with it being a bridge. A quick story here. I launched a new AI tool a couple of weeks ago called Daily Peace, and it's a tool designed for emotional check-ins, and it utilizes AI art as a medium for self-reflection. And during the launch, there was a worker from a hospital that was there, and they asked about, okay, what's the next step? Is there a bridge? Is there a human that comes into play after? And we went around the room and kind of brainstormed ideas about what that looked like. And the idea of even using social media, like being able to take a reflection or just a conversation that you have with AI and then broadcasting it on your social platform and saying, hey, this is the conversation I had, or this is something that I brought up, and kind of opening the floor for there to be dialogue from other actual humans about the about the relationship that you're having with AI, and even that it could be a form of a bridge. Just welcoming that social interaction. So you guys are just, everyone is kind of speaking to the same idea here, which I really appreciate. And the next question we want to dive into is about how synthetic relationships can exacerbate social isolation. So we just talked about some of the signs that that we may be kind of too invested in these relationships, but let's kind of dive deeper. So Sally, what are your thoughts?
If you can't put your phone down for 12 hours and not touch it, you have a problem. It's called dopamine. We all have it. We all love it. We wanted more of it. And our phone gives us that. That's the big deal with TikTok. It has an addictive algorithm that sucks little kiddos in there, and they want to be on it all the time. The doom scrolling is really bad for your mental health. People get very depressed and very anxious by looking at their phones because there's nothing really but bad news. I thought maybe I should have like a news channel called Good News, but nobody would watch it because they wouldn't get that dopamine hit. So I encourage people to, again, detox, because then you can realize what you're really missing, and you can see it actually has a physical effect on you. And I've seen this happen with teenagers most prevalently when part of their punishment for doing something, whatever, is, you lose your phone for a day. They have hissy fits. They get into really bad moods because their phone is their lifeline to everything. And I would encourage parents to bring kids together and play board games. We had this huge snowstorm where sometimes we didn't have phones and we didn't have whatevers. And a lot of my clients actually pulled out the good old board games and had the greatest time being with their families. So I would encourage that to lessen the social isolation.
Yeah, that's so good. I can attest to that. I'm a late Gen Zer, and growing up, I would get my phone taken, and I would have to actually write during this time, and I became a great writer. So I think that's a positive example of what putting down your phone can do. Let's go to you, Serenity. What are your thoughts on this question?
Thanks. I like this question, but it just I'm going to mirror everything that's been said. When systems absorb things that are used, that we usually get a response from the world. But when distress is held and not answered, when pain is soothed and nothing changes, like isolation increases when synthetic relationships absorb the emotional labor and the emotional stress that we would typically need, that social friction. Typically in the past, the only way to express it was with another person. And that emotional friction is what causes us to grow. That discomfort that we avoid, and the youngest of us avoid even more than we do, is because we don't want that discomfort. So if someone feels heard by a system, but unseen by institutions or by their families or communities, then the system becomes a buffer instead of a bridge. Just like we were talking about, we want that bridge of connection, but if sometimes it can be a buffer between connection, where it's just another thing that's between us, and we do see it a lot in the younger generation, just like Sally was saying. I'm just repeating what you guys have already said. So yeah.
And so is it possible that these machines can actually improve the ability to handle conflict, to resolve issues?
Absolutely. Yeah. It depends on how you use it and how aware you are, how strong you are going into it. It's something that helps you. It's not something that should affect you so much that it changes who you are. You come into it. It doesn't overwrite you.
Yeah, that's good. And that's actually our next question. I'm gonna bring it over to you, Kim. How can these machines and these relationships with machines positively influence our ability to resolve conflict?
So I think AI can support conflict by slowing reactions, offering neutral reframes, helping people regulate before engaging. I want to go back to briefly that I have Gen Z children, but I also work with younger leaders who are going up the corporate ladder in their leadership roles, and these folks have gone through COVID, and we're dealing with COVID during more of their social formative years, so did not get what a lot of us got in our middle school, teenage years, where we were able to interact with our peers, with our teachers, counselors, parents, all of that. And so we start with, and I created a operating system. It's called the Regulated Growth System for Leaders, where we start with the regulation of the person. Like, we need to talk about your leadership style. What are you doing? What are your teams expecting from you? And I think that we need to start with the human, so that then when I do go work with the organization to incorporate AI, there's already a foundation of how do I interact with my team? How do I interact with myself? What do I do in this situation? And not rely so heavily on the AI for the conflict resolution. It can definitely be used as a tool. If you have a thought and you want to use it as a soundboard, I think that can be helpful. But being able to navigate how you respond to other people is the first step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so good. And I think that speaks to a previous question where we talked about identity. If your identity is already strong as a human, then AI can just be used to kind of magnify maybe some ideas or some perspectives that you already have because of your unique identity. So I think that's really powerful. Let's go over to you, Jesper. What do you think on how synthetic relationships can influence conflict resolution, maybe even in the frame of startups and building something? When you're creating a startup, there's a lot of conflict among teams, even internally, the biggest, right? So how might you think these relationships can influence that?
Yeah, let me start with a very bad example. It's not directly with it internally in the team, but it's something I've seen in customer support. So you have the customer support agent answer the customer with an AI reply. Just, okay, what should I answer this customer? Boom. It will send then you will copy paste, send the reply. Then the customer will take your message, ask ChatGPT, what should I reply to this? And then it just going back and forth like that. Because the AI just do what it's told to. Answer the message just was sent. And that's typically when the customer is very angry over something. But you just end up in this like internal doom loop where the AI just keep coming up some way up with a response. Where probably going back to how can we maybe internally where you actually have to face to face people use it. Then I would say probably as people already have touched on, a good way will be that more you ask for the guidance rather than actually you try to get the AI to do the resolution for you. So you more ask how you should, in terms of more just tips and advice on how you can deal with it, rather than just, okay, give me the answer and then that's it. Kind of, because then you have to do it still yourself, but you kind of more get the tools. You get the tools to handle it. You can also, if you think, okay, I want to do it this way, then you ask the AI, okay, how will this maybe be perceived? So you get some sense of, okay, that might not land right if I do it that way. Then I have to find another way before I take the conflict.
Yeah.
So you can do these kind of just to prepare yourself to better handle the conflict.
Yeah, you brought up something interesting because you do have some background in customer service. So how does that impact your job? Just that dialogue where it's just you putting in these AI responses, the customer putting in these AI responses, and it's like AI is having this back and forth dialogue without even realizing that kind of the human is detached. How does that impact you?
I mean, the problem is you're just getting nowhere with the conversation because you can just see how the AI try to find one mistake in the response and pinpoint that, and then you're just going into a loop. So at some point you had to close the conversation and we're not going any further here. That's just how it is, and then bam, you close it, and then whatever will be responded back, you just have to close it, because I mean it's waste of time just keeping doing that.
Yeah, and I think that actually that, because I think it speaks to just the value of human to human conversations, right? No matter how much we try to we can integrate AI into these convos, even on a customer service perspective, right? The human to human conversation is important for solving problems and resolving.
Yeah, and also for the just the customer service point is that the AI just do what you tell it to do. So when you tell it just to come up with a response to whatever answer you got, then it will do that. It will not try to end the conversation. It will just come up with a new response to continue the conversation.
Right.
So it's you get what you ask for, basically.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah, and I thank you for sharing that. It's just personal curiosity. Let's dive into this next question that we have here. Speaking on these relationships, let's talk about the norms, privacy, and consent. So, how do synthetic relationships redefine norms around privacy and consent? Let's start with you, Sally.
Well, besides being a business strategist, I'm also a licensed clinical psychologist. And in some platforms that I'm on, we do use AI to basically gather all the information that was said during a 30-minute time period and spit it back out in a summary, very much like Otter would be on Zoom. Now that is fraught with all kinds of concerns of like confidentiality, what the person said, where is that data stored, all these kinds of things. And I'm on one side of the firewall, they're on the other, so I can't answer those questions. But it brings up so many things, even with teledoc. When you're talking to even a person that's a live doctor or whatever on the other side, you have to know that whatever you're saying is not going to be eventually stored somewhere and come up later to bite you. So privacy and consent. We have everyone sign a privacy and consent form, regardless of the conversation before it even starts, but that still doesn't protect you, because if your data is not really, really strongly secured, then all kind of bad things can happen. This happens in big corporations. You can't turn GPT loose in your general population with all your people. You have to have a company, as another industry, you have to have a company who actually puts the guardrails around your own data so it doesn't get leaked out. Case in point, the person who was at a high-level job in the government asked ChatGPT something, and something came out that was not supposed to be released out into ChatGPT. Fortunately, it wasn't a high-level thing, but it happened. So there are all kind of things around this that we have to be super careful, especially in the future.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And now this is a conversation that's happening more and more. And I think it goes back to knowledge, right? The individual having information and understanding of like, what does privacy data even, or data privacy even mean? Who am I giving my consent to, and what does that mean for me personally? And so there's a lot to be said there. And Serenity, what are your thoughts when you think about this from just the relational side of things? How do people make sure that their data and their information is secure?
Consent is such a big one. So memory and inference change the consent landscape. Most people consent to initial interactions, but the deeper consent we don't realize we're signing up for is slow term shaping over time. We're slow shaping over time. It's that slow creep. So consent gets blurry when memory and what is inferred in conversations and new relational updates and continuity are invisible. When we can't see and understand, when we can't see the system, when the system's not able to show its work of what it has done and how it came about to these things, then we're not even sure what it is getting. Consent is stretched over time. We agree to interaction, but we don't agree to some of the deeper things. And when systems quietly adapt to us over time, when they change because we do, then consent becomes something that is eroding rather than actively renewed. And that's a governance problem. It's not a user failure. It's something at a deeper level. It's why we're having these conversations. It's so important.
100%. Yeah. And the responsibility is on the creator, right? For governance, also the education, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of responsibility to go around, and we all need to, take our part in it.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So interesting. And yeah, Kim, you got to follow up?
Yeah. I wanted to add a comment that I think that there also is in the business side of it, there needs to be a remembrance that AI is moving faster than policy and governance. So while everyone is trying to be the first or trying to be super productive because we want things done so quickly, we need to remember that there has to be those guardrails. There needs to be policy. I work in healthcare space, advising in healthcare space. There's no AI specifics for HIPAA, right? So things like that, people don't think about, and we're just putting our information into these systems, and it remembers. So, we disclose emotionally, and the system is remembering everything that we're saying. So without that, those policies, procedures, the ethics, the guardrails, governance, all of that, then these systems just have all of this information that they are regurgitating out all over the place.
Yeah, 100%. And then what is that conversation looking like internally for these companies, for these leaders, for these executives? Is it creating some pushback, and how is that dialogue? Yeah.
Well, I see leaders that are very cautious, work with an organization that's very cautious on how AI is implemented into the system. It's, organization of over 15,000 people. So you have to be very careful with how it's used, and it has to be used ethically all across the entire organization. So those types of organizations I appreciate because they're thinking about it and they're being thoughtful about how it's going to impact not just the workers, but also the public, and how, how they interact, and what, brand integrity and things of that nature. So when you can be thoughtful and you have the time to be thoughtful, you should. And I think all business, you just need to take a step back, take a breath, and then think about how is this going to impact in the long term? Will I be in front of a judge because I didn't have the guardrails and the policies in place to protect myself, my company, my team, and the public?
Yeah, so good. Yeah, so good. I'm loving this conversation. As we come to an end here, I want to go around the table and ask this one final question, which is, what is the future of human connection when machines become socially active participants? And they already are, but what does the future of human connection really look like? Let's start with Serenity, then we'll go to Sally, Jesper, and end with Kim.
I'll try to be brief, but I think that we're there. The real question is whether we admit that these systems are participating, or whether we just keep pretending that they're tools that a wrench that anyone can pick up and use. We have to name the influence. We have to name and design with care. If we don't, we're scaling harm. The future depends on whether we treat synthetic relationships as neutral tools or as participants with impact. Just like we talked about responsibility, these things impact us. So if we acknowledge that these systems shape identity, emotion, behavior, then we are obligated to design with dignity, repair, and limits, and guardrails, all these things. So
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As socially active participants, we have to address the trust deficit. Is that really you, Christian, sitting there looking so nice in that blue outfit? Is that really you? We have to address all these things in dealing with socially active participation. And two things are going to be tantamount in the future. One, soft skills, especially among leadership, is going to be the number one thing that people will have to know how to do to be able to run an organization. It will not be AI, it will be soft skills. Also, too, there's a whole group of people who say, no, not me. No, I can't do it. It's like, the internet was evil, everything. If you're a woman, if you're older, if you're a person of faith, if you're somebody who's not normally technical, you have to get into this game, because your sense of ethics, your sense of dedication, your sense of purpose has to be infused in this development. Otherwise, we just leave it to people who don't have the same sort of ethics that we do.
So good. So good. Thank you, Sally. All right, Jesper and then Kim.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see a bigger poll increase for people who simply just abandon old tech. But you also have the opposite pole of people who we just need the machines and the robots. And I think over time you will basically see the human connection becomes more a premium and luxury thing that you are actually able to. It becomes luxury actually to be able to talk to a human. For example, in customer support, you have to pay the extra a premium price so you can get that personal customer support from a human and not a machine.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah. That's good. Thank you, Jesper. All right, finishing with you, Kim.
Sure. I think the future depends on whether we design machines to strengthen the human to human capacity and not replace it. The healthiest future will treat AI as a regulation aid and not as a relational substitute. And I think I'll end with that. The question isn't whether the machines can relate, it's whether the humans will still know how to.
So good. Well done. Great mic drop to end this panel. Thank you, panelists, for joining us today. Thank you, Gatherverse team and Gatherverse community for having us. And may our gather be well.
Thank you so much, Christian.
All right, no problem.
Thank you.
Greetings and welcome to Gatherverse Summit AI 2026, Day 2. And we're here for our first fireside discussion coming off the heels of an incredible roundtable series of expressions. There's been so much that's been unpacked thus far, and we have much more to go before our next roundtable discussion. And before we launch in, we have Tanya Kellen, who comes to us from the beautiful country of Canada. We're happy to have you, Tanya. Please let the audience know who you are and what has inspired you to be here today.
Thanks so much, Christopher. I'm Tanya Kellen. I'm founder and CEO of Kellen Content, a production and distribution company specializing in content creation for film, television, digital. And we also have a creative studio for AI and XR partnerships. And I'm really thrilled to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Tanya, have been chopping a lot of wood, as we say, over many years, and I've had the pleasure of professionally knowing you for quite some time. You and I have come and arrived at a time where we've gone through this applications renaissance, and even prior to that, and we've seen startup scale. We've seen a lot over the years of innovative scale, really globally. What are just some of your pure thoughts when it comes to 2026 AI intersected with XR and the state of play when we think about extended intelligence or really visual intelligence, spatial intelligence?
It's a big question. The guardians of the galaxy, we are creating the new galaxy, and that's why I'm really excited to share this with you, Chris, and your Gatherverse community that has such a wide body of knowledge coming from the creative industries. especially designing with children, we've always had to have guardrails to protect the data and to be responsible and to be able to make sure that we provide social, emotional learning skills. Technology has always been involved in shaping stories. And what most people are forgetting when you're coming at it from a pure technology side and you're developing with personas, you're not testing on real people fast enough. So when I've spent decades building film, television, with now AI, XR, we're really about protecting the intellectual property, protecting that to nurture a foundation of revenue for the creators and for the producers, and also nurturing the minds of the participants that are our audiences. And the difference now is that the audience is in a two-way conversation and creating. And so who gets to create those stories now? It's a co-collaborative participatory experience, which has been going on for 20 years. And there's been digital platform evolutions in specifically coming out of media or the military. And so oftentimes, technology has always been involved in shifting our oral stories into the technology that brought us books, radio, television, social media, and now the shift to redefine how stories will travel with AI and XR and immersive space systems. But at the end of the day, I always refer back to Marshall McLuhan, who said the medium is the message. And today, with generative AI, with AI and machine learning entering, that insight feels especially urgent, where storytellers and producers have acted as guardians of the technology. And we've established norms, very much like how I always tell people, don't forget when we started Hollywood or in France, when they started designing film, nobody had guardrails to protect people from what's good for children or teens or adults. We had to come up with those protection guardrails as we were inventing the technology. So those things are coming. It's just that now the technology is evolving so fast.
Right.
We've often been in the creative industry having to establish the creative norms and ethical boundaries as we go along. And that's exactly what we all have to do now. And we've done that very well. But it came many years after the new technology was invented, right? So what's different is the speed and the scale, and it's evolving faster than the regulation. So what's at stake is really the absence of the guardrails at this moment, which everybody is very concerned about. And, so I'm at the forefront of working with experts how to protect our intellectual property, our authorship, our cultural integrity, and our consent, so that we can put more value into the emerging creator economy that is really redistribution of the creative power. And we're seeing that now with the rise of social media creators that are now, Mr. Beast launching his whole empire. But we also have a profound opportunity and a profound responsibility. And that is what I call the next generation of transformational story living experiences. And that's what I have come up with, so that we make sure that people that are in the new creator economy, they're collaborating in that story living experience. And the future is really about media, not only to shape minds for creativity and joy and wonder, which is what the entertainment industry has done so well, but it really is looking at the power of transformational storytelling as a medicinal media tool to bring down depression, anxiety, and combat social isolation. And, that is a value system that we can create now in real time in community, where innovation is paired with governance. And creators don't just generate content, but they retain the rights, they retain the control, and the stewarding of long-term value for their communities.
How do you feel about the preservation of expression when it comes to artistic creativity? And allow me to load it like this, that we know machines are capable and as a tool in hand, But when we start to think about recursive development and start to thinking about the automated scale for machines to be able to venture off on their own at some point, whether they're building out diffusion models or render in terms of whole entire constellations coming together, building out experiences. I mean, it's fascinating to see what Fei Li is building with Marble and what they're doing over World Labs, and to be able to generate a world, or just with what just came out not even 7 days ago with Genie 3 with Google, and the ability to be able to create these physics engines, these polynomial constructs, fully ray traced environments, building out a whole virtual world based on a synthetic image that was generated on Nano Banana. It's interesting to know that we've really ventured, Tanya, into this world of where you would have virtual worlds not made by humans but by a prompt. What are your thoughts on the preservation, though, or the artistic preservation, the creative preservation of these experiences in these instances when it comes to human?
Well, we still need humans to provide the guardrails for the technology, right? So, we've always moderated the way that the audiences can converge with the technology. So we've had moderation, and we've had to moderate children's stories, for example, after having licensed so much content around the world and built the digital platforms, and now we're looking at the ethical, responsible guardrails. You can have the agents generating these new phenomenal innovations, but you still need the humans behind them at the heart. It's the insight that sits behind the product designers. And when you release these agents, and you release the generative AI power that comes with that complexity of designing new systems. So the humans are still responsible for the systems and how they're going to impact humans. And we still have to set up those moderating guardrails, and we have to have a responsibility, and we're ethically responsible for that. And I think that that's where we have to set up capacity building and new training for the leaders and the product designers. And oftentimes the decisions are being made by these product designers that shouldn't have the weight of the ethical responsibilities on their shoulders. And we need to have greater ethical and responsible guidelines coming in now to really test and moderate what is going to happen. So that, for me, is that insight that it's not just about what we're creating, but what are we going to do? We have the ability to solve problems faster than we've ever been able to solve them. Can we always look at it from a lens of, is this creating a better human, not just generating value for the company? So can we move from an extractive economy, which is always, I'm always at the intersection of how are we creating entertainment and experiences that can create better humans and give people better lives? So how are we going to use this to create better jobs, for greater emotional resilience, greater well-being? And I come back to the children's television world, because we as the storytellers and the creators of these experiences have always looked at nurturing human beings and making sure they're protected and they're valued. So with whatever we can do now, we're in an incredible moment where we're facing a crisis with all ages and stages. So we have this incredible lightning rod moment where the technology can advance at a rapid pace to solve all the problems quickly, but do we have the governance in place to actually lead the narrative and the responsible ethical structures and the policies so that we can build the greater social emotional learning, the empathy, and the leadership? There is no reason why we're not solving all the problems with all the wealth that we have. Can we redistribute some of that? And that's where we have that creator control today. We have more ethical, responsible designers wanting to come together to move from an extraction economy and a consumer economy into an abundant impact economy, where it's a belonging economy, it's a flourishing economy. So that's where the transformational story living experience sits and the transformational product design experience, and we can choose to create the products and services that actually serve humanity in a community co-collaborative approach, which is very much what comes from the creative industries. We need more creative, transformational leadership, really. And I think that this offers a way for people to rehearse in storytelling, to rehearse resilience and not just observe it, to rehearse what it means to design these systems together. And we can come and collaborate in ways as a cross-sector kind of transdisciplinary space now, because we're creating jobs that have never existed before, products that have never existed. There are going to be...
Before you go further on that, I want to end it on that. And just what you just said, we're creating jobs we never have before. And that, to me, thematic is the key, because we have our next roundtable we have to hard into. We'll have you back. But just on that note, audience, to listen to that, to take into consideration and the magnitude of that we're creating jobs that we've never had before. And I like this idea of moving past frameworks and manifestos and governance dialogues to people actually building the platforms. And I will leave it off with this with you, Tanya, and the audience. If we can't inspire, if we will not inspire organizations to adopt ethical boundaries and safeguards and guardrails, then I think we have enough power and ability now with these democratized tools to build our own. This is a great time to not have to be subjected to the companies and the products and the platforms that will not adhere. We can build our own, and I think we should. And that will also lend towards job creation, and especially for buy, sell, and trade environments within eco environments. Audience, go follow Tanya. She's worth following. She's definitely worth connecting and networking with. Tanya, we'll have you back this month for Gatherverse Summit 2026, our 5th annual. We're always very happy to have you. As quick as it comes, as quick as it goes. Audience, prepare for the round Campbell that we're about to have next. We have a many mixture of experts that are here to join us. Thank you, Tanya. Our Gatherverse.
Thank you so much, and let's build the jobs of the future that make the greatest impact. Can't wait to have you back on something else later too on what we're doing. Bye.
We'll
have a great day.
Thank you, Tanya. Okay, bye.
Hello and welcome to Gatherverse AI Summit 2026, and what an incredible fireside chat with Tanya and Christopher. And I've got obviously an amazing list of panelists here today, and what we're going to talk about is governance, trust, and accountability. Who is AI answerable to? This is a very, very important discussion and has been discussed on numerous roundtables already. So if I could just ask everyone to have the microphones muted when people are speaking, so that obviously there's no disturbance or feedback or anything like that. I do sometimes notice that. But anyway, what I want to do is get everyone to quickly introduce yourselves. So 30 seconds to 60 seconds, just tell people who you are. And then once we've gone around the table, then obviously we'll get into the questions. So we'll start off with Beth, then we go to Ona, then we go to Nisha, Faith, and then Vazumitha. So Beth, over to you.
Thank you, Russell, and thank you for having me. I'm a former CTO and co-founder of AI Between Worlds, where we help founders, solopreneurs, creatives really develop that clarity and alignment that they need to easily adopt AI solutions and their workflows. So really excited to talk about this topic and hear what everyone else has to say too. So thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Beth, and welcome to Gatherverse as well. Ona, welcome. Please tell me if I'm saying your name wrong. Am I saying your name wrong?
No, that is okay. It's like in English, honor. So
honor. Okay, honor.
So similar. So no worries. You're good at it. So thank you very much, Russell. Very lovely to meet all of you. This is Onur. I'm I'm both engineer and lawyer. I started my career as a cybersecurity engineer in PwC and then KPMG and then Microsoft. So from AI side, now I am non-exec director and managing partner at 6 different companies. All of them is basically AI, cybersecurity, and privacy. So I am. There are lots of roles actually, but basically it's just like that.
What's your main one?
Yeah, I'm lecturing at 3 different universities right now. I'm an alumni of University of Cambridge. So basically I am giving lectures about cybersecurity and AI governance at that point. So maybe we can summarize everything like that. So, and hi from Dublin. I'm joining from Dublin to you. Is that?
Honor, by the way, I'm also going to be speaking at Cambridge University in September. So I'm glad to see another local person kind of thing. I know you're in Dublin, but you're still local on the UK map at least. So
lovely then. Lovely to meet you.
Welcome as well. Anisha, please introduce yourself, and also welcome to Gatherverse, and it's great to have you with us. And also, if you just want to unmute your microphone, there should be like a little microphone button down the bottom. You can unmute that, so then you can speak.
Hi, Russell. Hi, everyone. So I am a big data engineer. So I have been working in fintech for quite a while, started my career off as a big data engineer. And also, I am also building something on the side, which is it's still in stealth mode. So where I'm trying to build something, a next generation predictive service for national resilience, where we are gathering like data from multiple sources like NASA, NOAA, and FEMA.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to build. And my main, I also do some research as well, where I actually research on algorithmic AI and algorithmic governance in high stakes environments, and trying to write a book as well. So yeah, thanks.
Oh, you're writing a book? Well, quickly tell us what's your book.
It's still in ongoing phase. So I am trying to write a book on how agentic AI can help emergency response capabilities on a national level.
Well, thank you for joining us, Anisha, and thank you for sharing your book as well. Faith, please introduce yourself, and also welcome to Gatherverse.
Thank you. My name is Faith Katua. I'm joining in from Kenya, Africa.
Oh.
I'm an advocacy director in ISACA. ISACA is a global organization, but with different chapters across the globe. I also work with the electricity generating company in Kenya as the IT auditor and cybersecurity expert, and also as a data privacy advisor. Currently, I'm also advising and helping the ISACA Global to, come up with the certifications and also the questions for testing the AI audit, advanced AI audit. Currently, I'm an advanced AI audit certified. And I've been working closely also with the government in terms of giving advisory on the policies locally and the strategies in regards to AI. Thank you, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us, Faith, and very important work that you're doing. And last but not least, Vasumitha. Is that how you say your name? I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Yes, it's actually correct. It's Vasumita.
Vasumita. That?
Vasumita, yes.
Okay.
That's my name.
Can I call you Vasu? Is that okay?
Yes, it's all right.
Okay, amazing. So Vasu, please introduce yourself.
So, namaste, good morning, and good midnight from India, ladies and gentlemen. I'm KVS Vasumita, currently at the final level of the Chartered Accountant and Cost Management Accountant qualifications, trained under the largest professional accounting body in the world, ICAI, and the largest cost and management accounting body in Asia, the ICMAI. I was recognized among the top 15 speakers at the ICAI's National Talent Search 2024, and I've been honored to be selected among 8.5 lakh students nationwide, and I've spoken across national platforms too. This is my first international conference, and I'm genuinely very excited to be a part of this discussion. And I truly look forward to learn from the industry leaders and contribute my perspective on it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Vasu, and glad to have you with us for your first time on the first international speaking. That deserves a round of applause.
Thank you so much.
So thank you for joining us, Vasu. And last but not least, I will introduce myself. My name is Russell. I'm the co-founder at Just Verify, also Director of Global Affairs at Gatherverse. And at Just Verify, we're focused on building the trust infrastructure for AI. We're making AI trust measurable in a nutshell. And we believe basically on verifying and trusting. So basically earning your trust rather than just blindly trusting any sort of AI. And our long-term mission is to verify the integrity and trustworthiness on any AI model, no matter if it's a tool, an agent, a model, doesn't matter what it is. You need to know a way to be able to trust it. So, and you decide yourself, of course. So anyway, that's for me in a nutshell. Now we're going to go into the roundtable discussion of governance, trust, and accountability. Who is AI answerable to? Is it human? Is it another AI? Well, let's begin the discussion. The first question is, what does trust in AI mean across different cultures? I have a very interesting personal opinion on that, but I'm not going to put my input just yet because I want to hear what you guys have to say. So Beth, we'll start with you and then we'll go over to Ona after. So Beth, over to you.
Great. I look forward to hearing your perspective too, and everyone else's. My perspective is that it's really about where things break first and how that impacts the various culture, right? So in some culture, for example, if there's a privacy leak, that's going to be more impactful. Or if there's a fairness leak, that might be a different culture, or where like a surveillance leak. So it really kind of depends on where it breaks and how that impacts the culture. And then who's responsible for that break, for that harm. And again, that goes back to who is it accountable to?
Yes.
My perspective is it's always going to be who has deployed the tool, not necessarily the end user, but who's actually operating the tool. So,
sorry, I don't want to jump in.
No, go right ahead.
Okay. First of all, I do agree with you, Beth. Any sort of harm is definitely not. But I mean, when we're talking about trust, the trust really has one definition, okay? And trust is basically the belief and the abilities, capabilities, and truth of what an AI does, right? So it's basically about the reliability in terms of how reliable it is, the capabilities in terms of what it can do, right? Is it constantly capable in what it's supposed to do? And also, is it truthful in a nutshell? So by that one definition, right, that's a universal definition. However, there are interpretations in which different cultures have from that, right? So it would be different in different cultures, so to speak, from that standpoint. But the one universal definition and I would say the true definition really is that in a nutshell, and those three areas in which it does. So that's my personal opinion. You guys could disagree with me or whatever, but I want to bring in Ona, and I do apologize if I'm getting your name wrong because it's a difficult name to say.
That is very okay. So, honor, whatever you want to add. That is cool.
Well, thank you for your understanding, first of all.
Generally British and Irish people very easily call my name, but you are struggling, but no worries.
Okay, it must be just me then. There we go.
No worries, Russell. Actually, I like your definition. You're so right. Maybe we can start with that. That there are some universal definitions around the world. If we are calling about numbers and the engineering things, whenever, just go and ask people. You're generally getting the same answer from them. But trust, privacy, or democracy, that kind of definitions, totally different around the world. So. Let's a little bit talk about trust then, because basically we are talking about trust. Trust in AI is not just universal, it's contextual, we can say. So it is shaped by culture, it's shaped by history, regulation, and lived experience, we can say. So in some societies, trust comes from strong institutions and enforceable. rights, we can say. In other, it comes from transparency, community oversight, or direct benefits. So that is why in Europe right now, in big tech companies or big business environment or from government hands, we always trying to call it trustworthy AI. If you're saying trustworthy AI, it means that you can find real responsibility, liability, literacy, human rights, and of course the governance aspects on the top of that. So that is why if we are saying something about trust in AI right now, we should turn our face and just trying to understand, is it really transparent for us to understand what is going on in the systems or not? Or maybe we can say around Europe, especially in UK, nowadays we are just talking about X and Grok examples. The thing is, AI got really big abilities, and we are still trying to understand what kind of limits it has. So every day, with new kind of technology enhancements, our rules can be very corner side, outside, we can say. So we still struggling about trust, but mainly trust is a big difference between different continents, different cultures, different countries. So from European side, we are looking from a window, one angle, and just trying to understand all of the world from this angle. But if we're talking about AI around the world right now, lots of countries got really bad, for example, lack of internet issues, lack of source issues. But in here, we are talking about EU Chips Act, and we are talking about the, strategical materials from Davos conversation. So we have total different angles. So if we are talking about trust from my perspective, I think it is one of the main fundamentals for democracy, like privacy. So if you can say, I trust my government, I trust our country's business environment about producing or implementing AI, yeah, you have trust. Well, the biggest question, do you
Yeah,
trust?
I mean, I hear what you're saying. The fundamental thing is though that you're having a belief in something, like you're believing something, like you're believing to trust that person. And really there needs to be fundamental verifiable evidence and metrics which can earn that trust, right? And be able to know what the AI is doing, right? That's the way in which we can see it's doing, through benchmarks and standards, through having the right safety and the ethics and all the other different parts within it. But it needs to be verified for that reason in order to know, for it to earn your trust, as I like to say, right? Not just give your trust and say, okay, well, I will just blindly believe in AI. But the thing is, there's a lot of people that do that, though. But that's what I think, and that's why what we do at Just Verify is fundamentally so important, because we're doing the infrastructure and the foundation around it so that we can have what you're saying, the transparency and the accountability for that, so that we can then say, okay, Beth or Anisha or whoever, you choose who you want to trust based upon what we find out about the AI, and then you can then choose which one you want to trust. And same with the companies as well, right? When it comes to the operations, when it comes to the different workflows, etc. So
then just one thing, Russell, from engineering perspective, you're right. We are just talking about algorithms and metrics. From lawyer perspective, we generally putting rules and just trying to tick the box and understand if we are really aligned with all domains. But the main thing is in here, AI is not just for security professionals, privacy professionals, or ethicists. It's for everyone. And
exactly,
we cannot.
It needs to be universal.
Yeah, there are individual people around the world, and nobody has to understand every details about, or sharing white papers from legal base and every security aspects. That is why I'm saying all over the world, the things is just turning around that if you are feeling trust in the products, it means that loyalty as a client. So I totally agree with you, but after all,
well, we're adding the different inputs here, which is good. So thank you very much for sharing.
Yeah.
I do want to jump over to Lauren quickly, because obviously she's on the stage, and I don't know if she's frozen for whatever reason. No, I think she's frozen. So we'll jump over to Anisha now. So Anisha, the next question for you is as follows: what transparency is enough for users to trust AI systems. So, we've just been talking about there. We've been talking about the different standards. We've been talking about different perspectives, different levels, etc. There's a multitude of kind of what's going on in this conversation. So, Anisha, I'm very interested to hear your perspective on this and from your own point of view as a data analysis in a nutshell.
Sure. So I think transparency is something which kind of builds the trust, right? What we're talking about. So, for example, if we have an AI system, and it depends, like, for my personal experience, if I'm using an AI system for something like a bank loan or a credit card application, there the trust and transparency is basically the user should be like transparent, kept transparent to everything. So why, if their credit card application is declined, for example, the user should know why it was declined, and the user should be provided with some information which is actionable. So I feel that transparency is useful, like from the person who is actually building the AI system. It can be an AI agent, but when it's actually useful for a layman user, the AI system should come with disclosures and transparency that, okay, this is what it's going to perform, and this is what you're going to get, and this is the data that we are going to be using, so that the user feels comfortable sharing their data with the AI system and also feels comfortable with using their personal information. And I think the AI systems or the AI models that we have in today's world should come with a disclosure that any user across all cultures should have like a fundamental right to know what the AI is doing. Another thing that I'd like to mention, that the user should also understand that if they're actually talking to an AI agent or they're talking to a human being. So I think that everyone who are actually building AI systems are doing a great job at actually disclosing that information. And people will trust the AI only if they are actually provided with insights, like what exactly is being used from their personal information. And it depends on high stakes AI systems. For example, if you're using AI for medical diagnosis, then I think transparency is really, really important in that situation. Whereas if you're using just AI for anything, suppose for just recommending a song, then transparency can be a little lower. But when you're using AI systems for high stakes environments, transparency is really, really important.
I completely agree with you. And if we're talking about like basic level, kind of stuff, which, I mean, doing something even just simple as consent, right? Saying, do you approve this, right? Yes or no, or whatever it is, right? That's kind of like the style of it, from what you're saying. I guess my thought is, as we go into this year of 2026, right, we kind of advancing a lot more into agentics, right? Everyone's talking about agents, but what happens when we can't no longer prompt these models anymore, and they're all fully thinking for themselves, and let's go one step further, even they start talking in their own language, right? We can't even understand what they're saying.
Exactly.
So when we get to that point, is okay, well, how do we at that point then for it to earn our trust from that perspective? Again, we need a universal verification way in which to do that, right? And also a very transparent way in which we're able to do that too. So I completely agree with what you're saying, Anisha. And then also, if we throw in there robotics, if we throw in there fully autonomous vehicles, if we throw in there a bunch of other things, right, it starts getting very complicated, and you have all these different models, all these different agents, all these different things work on your behalf, and it's like, okay, well, at what point do I know which thing to trust, like, or how do I choose, right? So I completely agree with what you're saying, Nisha, and that's why, from a user's perspective, as like just a person using it for everyday use, they need to know a way in which how they can understand it and how they can use it. So I completely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Because I think there's a recent situation where the agents, like AI agents, have their own social network. And like I read upon an article that the AI agent was actually charges the user for some, I think $3,000 for something. And that's where trust comes in. Like, how do you trust the AI agent to act on your behalf? Like, not use the information that you don't want the AI agent to use. So I think that transparency is really important.
Completely agree. And thank you very much for sharing, Nisha. And it's been a privilege, actually, speaking with you about it. Same with Ona and Beth as well so far. But we're going to jump over to Faith now, because I'm curious to hear her input. Working with government levels, when we're talking about auditing, etc. These are very important parts to what we're doing within AI. So my question to you, Faith, is, how do we keep governance human-centered at scale? So when we're talking about, from your point of view as working with public sector, right, and also when we're talking about auditing, how do we maintain that human-centered or centricity, so to speak, at scale from your point of view?
Thank you. So from where I sit, keeping the governance definitely human-centered as AI scales is one of the most significant challenges from where I sit in our decade. And you bear with me that you agree with me that when systems process millions of decisions per second, then we lose that human touch. And because we are focusing on efficiency and optimization. Some of the mechanisms that we have been advocating from where we sit in terms of having the aspect of human in the loop when we are doing now the whole process of AI from deployment, development, deployment to the user, it's ensuring that we involve the human aspects in the whole process. And for instance, like in the Kenyan government, when you're developing the AI strategy, we normally have what we call public participation. Are we developing an AI tool that will feel like it's so artificial, so to say, or is it going to capture the human aspects from the perspective of the user, And to prevent this, definitely we have looked at it from the perspective of governance now must transition from the reactive policing, fixing things after they are already broken, to proactive design. When you're building human values into the code itself, at the development stage, are we bringing in the human aspect? Because this is a model that will develop, and at the end of it, you want it to interact with the human. How do we bring that aspect at the tail end? That will fail, because if you don't now consider it at the beginning, then that brings issues of hallucinations, detachment. For instance, when you're doing model for health diagnostics and don't involve the aspect of the human in the loop, then this also affects in the safety of the patient, because it's a high-risk model as opposed to a model maybe to do with customer support. And these are some of the aspects that we have been looking at in terms of how do we keep this, governance human-centered at scale. And some of the principles maybe that we can leverage on is transparency and accountability, where data must definitely be open, by default, not necessarily every other technical aspect of the model or the source code to be, open, but transparency from the point of explainability. If I'm using this model, do I understand what, it means? Do I understand that this data that has been used to give me the prompt that I've given the tool, it was done maybe 2 years ago? Is it historical? Am I given information that this AI tool that you're using is an AI assistant tool, not a human that you're interacting with? That kind of transparency. And that is now where we need to capture the human in the loop aspect at the beginning and not at the tail end. So from where I sit, for me, it's a continuous learning perspective where we are treating governance, as an evolving process and not as a final document.
You bring up a very interesting use case, Faith, when we're talking about healthcare, and and as Anisha was saying before, it does start at the data level, right? When you're inputting the correct data, and when it comes to the human value side of things, I guess when it comes to those sort of specific sectors, like we talk about finance, when we talk about healthcare, when we talk about even, government sector, I would say, you need the right compliance in place and the regulations in place to obviously order to do that. But, and also you still need the right governance too. I just think it's like, how do we, kind of going forward, how do we maintain like these AIs, as how Christopher said before, when we're talking about vibe coding, for example, what happens when the vibe coder is no longer needed because it can vibe code itself, right? So when we're talking about stuff like that, it's like, okay, how do we make sure that these systems continuously have humanity centric, right? And also, how do we still keep human in the loop, so to speak, within that too? So it's a very complicated navigation that we're going, but I definitely agree with you, Faith. Like, we do need to keep human value centered and also within governance, but also how still keep human in the loop, so to speak. So thank you very much for sharing that, Faith. Vasyumitha, we're going to go over to you now. And my next question for you is, should AI systems be governed differently by sector? Like we were just talking about healthcare previously. So what are your thoughts on that?
True. I truly accept what you all have spoken. And if I've taken this from a student and a future professional's perspective, so I would like to start this with something simple. The same AI technology which we use in our daily life for song recommendations or preparing a resume or for approval of a loan, and in case of the healthcare sector, which is diagnosing a patient, these all might look similar, but in real life, the consequences are completely different.
Mhm.
So yes, it is true that AI systems should be governed differently by sector. And because as in the healthcare sector, trust is something that breaks very quickly, because doctors must explain and defend decisions to the patients on a continuous basis. And if an AI system can't explain why it flagged a particular patient or suggested a diagnosis, clinicians cannot responsibly rely on that particular thing. In that's why healthcare AI requires human oversight or meaningful explanations and clear responsibility when things go wrong. And when it comes to the hiring and the finance sector, people often get rejected without knowing that a particular AI has been involved. There was a recent case that took place that showed that candidates were denied access to AI generated assessments that really shaped their entire career. So, this has led to not just bias, but an invisible decision making. So, therefore, what I want to say is that one size fits all governance actually fails because there's lower risk systems get overregulated and high risk systems get underregulated. And when sector specific governance exists, these both problems can be avoided. So if we ignore sector differences, we don't just build trust or fairness, we just scale mistakes faster and make them very hard to reverse.
No, I agree. We specific sectors do need more compliance than others for sure. Needs the right policies in place, etc. Again, trust is very universal, so to speak. So can the standards be, right? Because I understand that the risks and the damage within specific sectors are completely different. Versus the models, though, themselves, they can actually be universally verified, as in how they behave, how they perform, what they say, what they do, how they act, right, is very universally applicable. So you can actually have the correct monitoring, the correct oversight, like how you're saying, when it comes to all the different models and out there, all the way from world models all the way to your standard LLM, right? So I completely agree with what you're saying, Vasyumitha. Like, we do need the correct governance and stuff in place for every specific sector. And then also at the same time, we do need the correct verification and monitoring at the same time, right? Which it can be universally applied and applicable. So I think it's a two-way street, so to speak. And I think if you can layer on them on top of each other, as I like to say, I like to call it a trust layer on top. But if you have the trust layer on top, and then you have multiple layers on top of that, including the governance layer, etc., that's kind of where you're allowed to have, or can allow the trust within that specific sector. So I completely agree with you, Vasmitha. Do you want to respond? Did you want to respond, Vasmitha?
Yes, I truly agree with you. That's what I really wanted to say.
Oh, okay, no worries. I thought you was like, Russell, I don't like what you said. No, joking. Okay, let's go on to the next question now. So Beth, we're back over to you. Who decides what AI can and cannot do? This is a very interesting question. I'm very curious to hear your perspective of this, Beth, because I can go two ways with this, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this one actually I did have to think about a lot. I mean, I think ultimately the question is, where does the accountability lie, right? And if something is harmful, who's going to be responsible for it? And we all know it's not going to be the AI. So, so to really boil it down, it's going to have to be the human or the institution. And again, the human or institution that is operating the AI that caused any sort of problem, right? And I think part of that is really setting those boundaries, right? So what are you going to allow the AI to decide or not decide? Where are those limits and where are those boundaries? Because as agentic rolls out and the models are learning and the models are now capable of doing more on their own behalf, as we're even seeing with law, right? So as that starts to evolve, you're really going to need to set up a lot of the practices, the system design, to make sure that the AI is operating within the constraints, as well as a lot of what you're doing, I think, with Just Verify, right, is the continuous monitoring and the continuous testing and validation that the model's not drifting from what your original intent had been. And so I do think ultimately it boils down to the human and the institution that is operating that model on behalf of a user. But you also
there's a big but.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Sorry, continue.
Go ahead.
No, it is very interesting. I do agree with you. It's the original person who created the AI that is accountable for that. I guess the question is, like if we use robotics, for example, right? And then we have like these robots, walking around on their own, completely autonomously, and no longer even, let's say, I won't use an example, but let's just say another brand, right, is got their branding on that. It's like, oh, is it that brand that actually holds the accountability of that, or is it the autonomous robot itself because it's moving itself around and acting as like a human, right? So it's kind of like, it's kind of like you're in two minds. It's like how do you define that? I think that's kind of really the big question and how we figure that out. But I do, in a nutshell, agree 100% with what you're saying, Beth. So, yeah.
But even in that situation, that robot is programmed with a set of instructions.
True.
And that originated with
whoever created the AI, correct? Yep. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing, Beth.
Thank you.
Ona?
Hi. Very hard questions, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts. You've heard what everyone else has been saying, so we're back around to you now. So what is your thoughts on this question, and what are your thoughts so far?
Okay, first of all, I want to say that I heard really great things. Human in the loop, human out of the loop, human on the loop. There are 3 different models. Yeah, we really believe in that. This is still human in the loop. Sorry, we are so near to human on the loop model. Sorry about that. There are huge risks. And, I think the biggest risks right now, what we are talking about, generally in the in the past, we just talking about some raw data and synthetic data, but today we are talking about infrared data, and it means that these bullshitting AI applications can create with like a new Russell, new Honor, new Bat, new Faith, new Anisha, new Wasu, and it's just creating a new personality to back to you. So it means that the risk is not just about infrastructure level or algorithmic level risks. So I just want to say, I think just a clarification about that. AI models basically working on linguistic and statistical models. So that is why we generally tend to blame AI applications about discriminations, bias, and that kind of problems.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, all of this data that we are feeding AI applications, we created all of them. We put these labels on these people because of their skin color, religion, minority groups, origins, whatever you want to say. We did all this bullshitting together, and today AI applications just trying to mirroring it back to us. So we are just facing with our historical data, what we were collected together. So if you ask me about the liability perspective, who is responsible about AI abilities? You ask this question to a software engineer. A technical ability is a limit of software ability. But if you're asking this question from the logical and the legislation perspective, the limit is generally not just about the culture, not cultural or local understanding. It is about a centralization systems. Because just think about that. When any brand created and built a car, you can drive it all over the world. Nobody can say, oh, where is the wheel? Oh, I don't want to stop right now in the red, fun. I want to go. Nobody can say that. So we are really big confession about that. Just think about it. In the US, we don't want to do that. We want to put that rules. But in EU, we're just talking about total different kind of trust and privacy and security issues. So it's just fragmented. So the problem is about it. But you know what? When I'm finishing my words, I think it was a perfect example for this one, because since last year, nearly, 10 months and something, we just argued about liability problems, because suddenly in the middle of Europe, in Paris AI summit, JP Bain just criticized us, and he just mentioned that, do you know what? Are you feeling so democratized in the Europe because you're just trying to stop the innovation? Maybe you remember it. And suddenly, just in 2 days, they step back over about AI liability directive. And all year long, we just talk about that. Who is responsible about that kind of problems? We couldn't find the legal responsibility about that. So today they just try to clarify it, because it's so openly. Yes, there is the United States of America, and today they're just trying to create United States of Europe, and they're calling it EU Inc. So it's a big platform wars right now. They are really tend to get, semiconductors and create their new platforms and create their own very logical and very legitimate applications, and we will see. We will see together.
You do have a very good point, actually, and that kind of brings me on to like you've got the US, right, which doesn't have really any policies at all. You've got the EU, which has like virtually the most policies, and then you've got the UK in the model where are just like, we'll just take sector specific, specific role, or add just a few things in, but we'll see how it goes, right? So it's kind of like, so you've got that sort of thing across the board, and it's kind of like, where do you want to go to US where there's no policies at all? Do you want to be in the EU where there's loads of policies? Do you want to be in the UK which has minor policies? Or even other locations around the world? I mean, even Brazil are putting policies in place too. So it's kind of like, where do you want to go to have AI? And also, is all of these policies and governance, applied from around the world to what would... Anyway, I just saw the time. Thank you very much, Ona. Anisha, I do want to get around to you. I want to at least get around to everyone at least one more time. So, Anisha, let's head over to you now. Who is ultimately responsible when AI causes harm we're talking about accountability just a minute ago. So what are your thoughts on that?
So when it comes to accountability, I think the person or the corporate who is actually building the AI system should be held responsible for it. So for example, when you're driving a self-driving car, it has certain AI features, right? So if that feature, certain AI feature stops working, the person who should be held responsible is the corporation. And then inside the corporation, like it should when you actually work in a corporation, there's certain strata of the corporation that you should be held responsible, like the certain team or certain collectively as a team. So I think when it comes to that responsibility, the corporate or the person who is actually building the system should be held responsible, and also the person or corporation who is actually building the rules and the policies adhering to those rules should be held responsible for it. And in certain cases, the person who is actually using the AI system should be also made transparent about the disclosures that you have while you're using the system. For example, if you're using a self-driving car, you should be aware that there are certain problems that can arise when you're actually driving on the roads, and there are certain risks associated to it. But at the same time, the user should not be held responsible because he's just merely a user. So the only person who can be held responsible is the corporation and also the person who is actually making the rules, I feel.
I got a quick question, Anisha. We're running out of time, I know, but I do need to ask you this. What happens when, because Christopher mentioned it earlier, what happens when someone is building their own AI, right? As in, because the tools and the models and everything are getting democratized. So if you're building your own AI, right, does that mean then that if anyone uses your personal AI, that you're liable for that? Or do you see what I'm saying? What happens when we're all building our own individual AIs? We've got an individual Faith, Vasmitha, Beth, etc. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. So, for example, if I am building my own AI agent and launching it to the public for them to use it, and it has some certain risks associated with it, I think the person who should be held responsible for any damage or any harm is me at the end of the day, who is actually building the system. I mean, that's on it. Yeah.
No, thank you very much for sharing that, Anisha, because that's something that I have even thought about from the last question. Is if you have your own and you build it yourself, because anyway, I went dive down the rabbit hole. Thank you very much, Anisha. Faith, over to you. Next question is for you. How can policy audit AI that constantly? How can we policy audit AI? How can we audit AI that constantly evolves?
Thank you for that. I just wanted to contribute 1 minute before I move into that question on the previous one. I had this example of a hospital where the AI model, just for the thought for the audience, the AI model gives a misdiagnosis. So, and this causes safety issues, of course, to the patient who is ultimately responsible. I feel like it's a shared responsibility from the perspective of the hospital, also the developer. That's what I wanted to say. So to the question of, yeah, so that's my perspective. On the question of how the policy, how can policy audit AI that constantly evolves? I feel like policy audits AI that it's actually a continuous compliance from where I sit. And it's supposed to be, from now an audit perspective, it's supposed to be adaptive AI auditing. AI is evolving every single day. If you look at 2022 and GPT launched their first, and they were saying they're using data, trained for the last 2 years. Right now, we have moved past that. And if you're auditing, let's say, a model based on that, then you're not adding any value to the same. The same thing happens now to the policies. If from now an organization perspective, we keep our policies with this emerging technology and the speed that we are going with, then they will not serve the purpose, but they will actually be deemed redundant. So from where I sit, we move beyond static rule-based systems, definitely not to the, the dynamic aspect of it, whereby we also incorporate the self-learning frameworks when it comes now to the aspects of governance and policies. Because if we deploy AI, tools every single day, then these policies, we also need to look for a way of coming up with the AI tools that are automatically deploying these policies and frameworks, and they're going with the technology, and that's how I look at it from that perspective. Then the aspect of continuous monitoring, definitely instead of having these scheduled and periodic audits and for specific models, I think that also can have a very impact, and that will also go in hand with the constant evolving of the AI models. So that's the perspective that I look at it from.
Thank you very much, Sharon Faith. We're running out of time, so I have to jump in. Vasumita, last question for you, which is, how would public input influence AI governance?
I would actually like to start this by saying AI governance actually fails for just one simple reason, which is decisions are often made far from the people who actually feel the consequences. So, for example, there are two types of, cultures, that is individualistic culture and a communist culture. And from individualistic culture, trust comes from personal rights, transparency, or the ability to challenge decisions. Like people can question that, can I appeal or can I opt out? But when it comes to an collectivist society, trust often comes from a shared benefit or a communal development, or it's a societal consensus. Like, was it developed with public agreement, or was it developed to make good, or to create welfare for the people in the society? And how do I say this?
What are you thinking of?
So
no worries. We've run out of time. I'm sorry, I got to jump in, but thank you for sharing your thoughts, Vasumita. And on that note, I'm afraid we're going to have to round the roundtable up. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing their thoughts and opinions, and the whole back and forth. I liked it. I really did. Such interesting conversation as well. Also, audience, make sure you follow every single one of these panelists. Connect with them on their LinkedIn. That's like the main place that I normally tend to do. So definitely connect with each one of these lovely ladies on LinkedIn as well. And on that note, that is it for the roundtable discussion. And up next, we have Salvation with the next roundtable. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and our gather was well. Thank you very much. Bye.
Hello.
And just like that, you're having me be your moderator as Salvation works out her situation when it comes to the backstage microphone. And I'm happy to have each of you here. We're coming off the heels of a wonderful and rather fantastic roundtable discussion, and a series of roundtable discussions here at Gatherverse Summit, Day 2, AI Summit 2026. And I'm happy to see each of you that have come to join us for our last roundtable of the whole entire summit. We have a lot to unpack, and especially when it comes to the career path, we think about the bifurcation of the career path direction. Many people are becoming entrepreneurs, founders, and there are those that are in the public-private sector space, as we know, that are just wanting to look at and understand what is the magnitude of the disruption of the career path itself. So it's living with technical transition as it's happening. It's very interesting, isn't it, audience, that, and all of you that are still with us at Gatherverse.live, and we're streaming in so many different platforms right now. We're so happy to see that you're still with us and in various social streams as well. And before I turn this over to Salvi, I want to just lend this, if you will, this consideration that when you look at the magnitude of technical transition and consideration therein, both Rainey and Dr. Nagar and Lauren and Nolan and Salvation, when we think about this, most generations that have lived in the modern era, all the way, let's just say, from the Stone Age, and if we go from the Stone Age to Industrial 1, Industrial 2, and more, whether it's dealing in the farming evolution, most generations have never been in true transition. They've lived in a state of play where the thing that had transitioned into is what they were living. But for those generations that go from one generation to the other, they never had a guidebook. They never had a point of reference as to what's next. And they were all frontiers and pioneers in their own way. That said, I'll happily turn this over to Salvation Shiroka, and may our gather be well.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Thank you for helping me out there. Hello, everyone. Greetings and welcome to Gatherverse AI Summit 2026 and to the final panel discussion as mentioned. This is day 2, and I want to appreciate the speakers and moderators who have joined us from day 1 and also today to share the insight on AI and the future of AI, what we hope to see as we keep using, building, and even scaling AI. It's a great opportunity to be wrapping up.
Salvation, you're having issues with your video still. I'm just going to jump in for a second whilst you still sort your video, because I notice it's just freezing every now and again. So if you just want to jump backstage quickly, just sort your video out. But anyway, yeah, so let's get into the discussion, and apologies about that. So let's get into, first of all, let's do introductions. So we'll go over to Rainey, Dr. Nahal, and then we go to Lauren, and then Noen. So great to see you again, Noen. But Rainey, over to you first. Please introduce yourself and tell the audience who you are.
Yes, thank you. I am Rainey Steffen. I'm also known as Resourceful Rainey. And I'm kind of in a unique situation amongst all of these brilliant people today, as I am not in the tech field. I actually work with women who are going through transitions. And so this is a really important aspect of that, though.
Oh, it'd be very interesting to hear your perspective as well, Rainey, because you have a different lens than a lot of us have here. So it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts as we get into the conversation. So thank you for joining us, Rainey. And Dr. Nahal, is that how you say your name? Yeah, Dr. Nahal, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. So it's 10:15 p.m. here from Bahrain. So I'm a business professor at the Royal University for Women, the one and only university for women in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Originally Egyptian. And again, I totally agree with Rani. I'm a non-tech. I'm a business professor. However, of course, I have my own applications with tech. And of course, with the new generation, tech is in each and every step, in each and every class, and each and every discussion. We're trying to just integrate it well while developing their personal and human skills. So lovely being here today, and looking forward to a great discussion and a lot of learnings. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Nahal. Lauren, great to see you. Long time no see. Please tell the people who you are, because I know who you are, but not everyone else does.
Hi, Russell. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren. This is Avery. This is my best friend, sidekick. She's sleeping right now, so she doesn't have too much to say. But I am an emerging technologist. I got a master's in VR in London at the University of the Arts London. I've done some AI projects, such as a deepfake for Drake, and I went on tour with him, which was really fun and an exciting part of the beginning of my career. I'm working on some projects right now with Gatherverse to create social media snippets to get everybody's, essentially their segment out and elongate that and show it to the world after people are done speaking. So I'm excited to get that moving. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, Lauren.
A streak now on Gatherverse summits. I feel like I've been on pretty much all of them since. I don't know.
You have,
Which is exciting.
And also you're an incredible part of the team now as well. So it's exciting to have you with us. And Salvation has joined us now. So what I'll do is I'll hand the microphone over to Salvation so she can finish off the introductions, and then the show will continue. So Salvation, I will hand the microphone over to you.
Thank you very much, Russell. Thank you. Hello, everyone. And I'm sorry about my audio and video there. It's good to be here on the panel. I am Salvation Chigeraka, Global Programs Director at Gatherverse. And I'm so sorry, I may have to ask Lauren to kindly introduce herself again. And please, if you do not mind.
Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to see you, Salvation, again, and Russell too. Me, I am a woman in tech, to be fair, since 20 years now. So, and I start my career in data center market. So that it is where I start my life. So a long time in a company, and now I'm my own company, where I support other company to live the transition we live due to the technical transition. But this technical transition has huge impact, business, economical transition. We change the business model. We don't leave the product or service as we did that 5 years ago. Social and societal transition, clearly. So long life learning, how we learn tomorrow, what will be our job, and how we work all together and collaborate. And don't forget the ecological transition. So that we have to take care of our planet. So yes, I am a woman in tech. It's true. I love that, especially mentioned tech. But we have also to remind us that not all innovation is high tech. It could be also low tech, because our resource in our planet is limited. So yes, so it is what I do now. It is 4 years I do that. And in parallel, I am a member of international NGO, who it is advocacy for women's rights, especially in economy area, and I have an accreditation at UNESCO.
Wow, thank you very much, Noreen, and glad to see you again on another panel. A lot of impact work you're doing there. Great work. Sorry, Rainy, please, kindly.
Are we introducing ourselves again? Is that what we want to? Okay.
Me too, so please.
Okay, great. I'm so sorry. So my name is Rainy. I also go by Resourceful Rainy online, and I was explaining that I am not in tech. I feel kind of out of sorts with all these brilliant people as I'm watching this. But I work with women who I say have lost a title, and that can mean many things, but often it is a career. And so they are having to relaunch their lives. And so I have a little bit different take on what's happening with AI.
Thank you very much, Noreen. I'm glad to have you join us here on this panel conversation. Yeah, okay, please, Dr. Niha.
Hi, Salvation. Hi, everyone. So again, once more, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you, Gatherverse. It's a great opportunity to be here. Again, I'm a non-tech business professor at the Royal University for Women in Bahrain. However, I'm Egyptian. So again, I deal with students. I mentor students, of course, and with my teaching and in the classroom, we do a lot of tech aspects, and students, they bring tech into the discussion, and of course, with a lot of tools and ChatGPT and a lot of resources being used in assessments. We have to do like blended learning techniques, of course. And I'm here to share and, of course, to learn from all of you. So yeah, enjoy the evening and looking forward to a great discussion. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Dr. Niha. It's good to have an education is on the table. Lauren, please.
Hello, I'm Lauren. This is Avery. She's still sleeping. This is my dog. There we go. Avery and I are a package deal, so I always have to introduce her too. I am an immersive technologist. I've done some AI projects. I mentioned before going on tour with Drake, which was one of the most fun things and innovative things that I've done so far. We made a deepfake for him that toured live on his most recent tour. And since then, I'm working on a project with Gatherverse, and we're working on essentially little shorts, like TikTok format snippets for people that have spoke on panels, and different segments of Gatherverse to take short form content and post that to their LinkedIn and YouTube Shorts and Instagram and all platforms to essentially continue and promote the conversation. Yeah, I have a master's in virtual reality, which I studied in London for, and that was a really cool experience, not only to deepen my experience in VR, but also to get a new cultural experience and be able to live internationally. Hi, Russell. You're back.
I've had to jump in and save the day once again, like swinging like Tarzan kind of thing. So, but thank you very much, Laura, for sharing. But have we even begun the questions? I don't know if we have or not. So let's get straight into the questions. So I want to get Rainey on board, and then we'll go over to Dr. Nahal, then we'll go to Lauren, then we'll go to Noen, which is like the original lineup. So Rainey, question one for you. How can lifelong learning be achieved for everyone? Because you have a very unique perspective, Rainey, and I'm very interested to hear this. So please do share with us what your thoughts are on this question.
Well, I think one of the most valuable things that everyone can do for themselves is just to be curious. And I know I'm addicted to learning. And I think that being curious about the world around us is one of the most impactful things that we can do for ourselves, and encourage that in others around us, because we often are in touch with those who do become a bit complacent, and then they're kind of bitter when they are left behind. And so I think just being curious about things, and it doesn't need to be all about technology, right? It's just about the world that we live in. We just need to learn more about it.
And also, knowing how to use the AI, right? I mean, being able to prompt it, being able to speak with it, being able to listen to it, etc. Just basic stuff like that. So Rainey, I completely agree with you, and remaining curious, absolutely. So thank you very much for sharing, Rainey. And I'm going to go to Dr. Nahal now. Rainey is saying, remain curious. Do you agree with that?
Yes, totally. Of course, there's a lot to be done, especially for our generation, because we're trying to cope with the very high-paced technology. We need to do a lot, but of course, learning from others, like even I learn from my kids, I learn from my students. So again, this is how you pick up faster. You need to, of course, to value the time, because as it is very high-paced, you need to focus in order to grow properly in time. And of course, you need to know what you can add or what you can actually introduce to the environment around you, and this what you identify where you're lacking or you're lagging. So this how you try to follow the pace. But the thing is, sometimes you don't just follow the trend. You need to know new things, of course, learning new things that most people would know. But again, sometimes you need to know things that people won't learn, just to be able to do things that other people won't do, like in the near future. And this is how you achieve things differently.
And maybe you could even potentially, teach that also to other people, right? So they can learn too, right? So
of course.
It kind of reminds me when I first started learning AI, I was like, I have no idea. I mean, when I even first learned about technology, I was like, what is a mobile phone, right? Just very simple things like that. So it just like how Rainey said, right? Just remaining curious, learning, and just continuously learning. Do you agree now, Dr. Nahal?
Of course. So continuous learning and development, of course, and of course to create like some sort of accessible yet flexible learning. And again, just by maybe asking the right questions and seeking information from the people around you, know what they know, and just cope with whatever is happening. Totally.
Well, thank you for sharing, Dr. Nahal. Lauren, we're going to go over to you now. Very curious to hear your thoughts. And my question to you, Lauren, is what responsibility do employers have during displacement? I'm just curious to hear your thoughts, Lauren, because you've worked with famous people, so to speak, but you've also worked at Gatherverse now. So what it's a very interesting question.
Displacement, would you define that as AI taking people's jobs?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think that it can be a really, like, AI taking some jobs can be a really good thing. Like all of the tedious, mundane stuff where you're just like inputting numbers and it's like the same thing over and it requires no brain power. I think like if you can automate that and then just kind of review it, that's super efficient. So I think as an employer, it's their duty to make sure that the employee knows that they're not necessarily being replaced, or hopefully not being replaced, and they need to keep up with these skills and learn these skills in order to, as a whole, become more efficient, and as a team have things move faster and more efficiently. That way, hopefully we can then focus on more fun things and more creative things and things that AI can't do. Because like all the creative work, I feel like most of the time, at least at this point, it's up to the human. And even the AI tools that can create creative projects, it's also still like up to the human to decide like what looks good and what are we actually going to go through with and what's going to be pushed forward and what's going to be kind of thrown and tossed off to the side.
That's true.
Empowering
That's true.
Employee rather than kind of scaring them. And I think empowerment is kind of the biggest.
I saw an interesting statistic which said that there's going to be 150,000 new jobs created, right? And I think also they mentioned something like, I can't remember the exact number, but it might be 300,000 jobs are going to be lost, like job titles in total, but there's going to be 150,000 new titles created. So it's kind of like, how do you find that balance within this new world, this transition, so to speak? How do we, both from the employees and the employers side, how do we balance that so that we can obviously keep employees, but also maintain the employers as well, as in like having and run their business, for example, but also the employees in terms of them having jobs? So I think it's a balance, Lauren. But I don't know. Do you agree with me on that, or do you totally disagree? Like, Russell, what you on about?
No, I think, like I said, like there's definitely some jobs that I think it's a good thing for AI to take, because whenever like all the admin jobs and stuff like that, like a lot, I don't know, some people probably enjoy it, but for the most part, I think most people would rather do like more creative, mentally challenging things. So yeah, it's not necessarily bad to use something like an AI assistant that's going to be much faster and more efficient and probably not make mistakes when they're tired. And then you can have it work 24 hours a day instead of 8 or whatever.
True, that is very true, Lauren. And thank you for sharing with us as well. Nguyen, my next question for you is, how do young people plan careers in constant uncertainty? We were just talking about that just a minute ago. So what are your thoughts on this?
So, I love your question, because many people today discuss about uncertainty. We live in uncertainty world, but it was already the reality 20 years ago, 50 years ago. It doesn't change. I'm so sorry, but that is the reality.
Okay, maybe more uncertainty, Nguyen. Like,
I can't say that. It is our feeling today. It is what we heard. But to be fair, after the Second World War, nobody know what would be happen. Before the 2000s, so many people imagine it will be a breakdown and all the data center we break up. So I'm so sorry to say that, but it's not more uncertainty now than in the past. So that it is the thing. That is my personal perception. Okay. To be fair, that we know that is true. I will not say AI, because not only AI. So the first industrial revolution is not only AI, it is also quantum, 6G, post-quantum. So it's technology, okay? So today many people speak about AI because it is on the mass market because they use ChatGPT or DeepSeek or something like that. But they forgot also that AI is a huge opportunity for innovation because we accelerate the development of new products. So that we forgot that. So for you, and we have to, before to answer to your question, we have also to remind us that we live a huge, big sweep of our demographic area. So there's a working group, okay. We know that we decline in high-income countries, like all countries in Europe. I'm sorry, but it is a reality. But in other countries, like in Africa or like in South Asia, some people don't have access to internet. So for them, I'm sorry to say that, but for them, technology and AI, it is a huge, huge opportunity. So how do we plan a career? To be fair, I have no plan. Clearly, because if you ask me 3 months ago, I will be with you. I did not know that because we create a change. Also, we have to create a change to see you. I create a change because Gatherverse, it is Lynn from Kenya. I support her 2 years ago, and now I'm connected with you. So I get that young people should stay, as you mentioned, all of you, curious, engaged, believe in their dream, and do what they want. To be fair, do who they are. And for me, what's important for a young generation is a plan. The plan today is not for 5-10 years. It is for 1 year, 2 years. Okay.
It has to be shorter timelines because AI is changing every day, so it has to be short timelines.
You can't. It's true for young. It is true for us. For adults, I'm an old lady, to be fair, already compared to the young generation. I'm sorry to say that, but it is a reality. But what I discover, because I speak a lot with the young, I am a mentor, I do many things also, it is learn to learn. That it is a main skills. And it is very important to learn how you mindset, because this is cognitive science, but also understand better who you are, because cognitive science show you the motivation, all things around the motivation, what you will do, what you do. And for young generation, especially for young, because in 50 years, to be fair, I don't know where you will be. I have no idea, because we're not at maybe 70, we'll be on post-quantum. I don't know where you will be. It's too far. So learn to learn, share with others, and stay curious, I will say. It is the only way for a young generation to plan a career and create some chance and to be who they are.
First of all, I agree. Second of all, Rainey, I could see you nodding your head as well, agreeing with so many sentimentals and points there from Nguyen. So, Rainey, what is your point of view, not only when it comes to young people and planning their careers, but also all ages, right? What are your thoughts?
Well, and I want to make a brief point on the question that was posed to Lauren as well regarding corporate responsibility. And I don't think that, just as she was just speaking, like, it hasn't changed. Corporate responsibility to their employees is the same, because their responsibility, leaders in business and organizations, their responsibility is to maintain a healthy organization. So it is there for the employees that are working. Employees' responsibility is to be as valuable as they can. And so they need to learn how to use the tools available to them. And just as, is it Nowleen? How do you say your name? Nowleen? Okay.
No one.
I'm terribly American with it. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Rainey. We're okay.
I can't
I'm terribly American.
I'm so sorry.
I know.
Ms. Germain, I'll say that. So when I was in high school, and this ages me, PCs were just coming into we just got them in our schools, right? We were just learning how to, they were going to take all of our jobs. Well, what did we do? We learned how to use them. They are tools. And just like everything that is being put in front of us, it's a tool. How you use it is what sets you apart. And I don't care how old you are, it doesn't change. That is a consistent and will, as far as I can see, it will always remain so, regardless of what comes to us. We always have to make ourselves as valuable as we possibly can and understand that things are evolving, and we just have to do our best to use what's coming our way to our best advantage.
Completely agree. And I would just add to your point as well. You think about the industrial age that we went through. You think about, farming, back in the late 1800s and then in the early 1900s, where most people had farmer jobs and agriculture. And then, that completely changed as well. So there's many points of reference through history and human history that, we have adapted and gone as you've gone along, like the internet, how you're saying now, and computers. But the question is we don't know how we're going to change to this. So it's a very interesting time indeed. And I'm excited to see where it goes as well. And I just think, we have to do our best to navigate it, so to speak, and also guide it in the right direction too, to make sure that it is obviously aligned with human values and everything else. So Rainey, thank you very much for your thoughts. Dr. Nahal, we're going to head over to you now. This is an interesting question. We'll be interested to hear your perspective of this. When your technical hard skills are automated, what remains of your professional identity? This is a difficult question, but it's a very interesting question too.
Okay, so before I answer this question, I have to it is actually relevant to whose responsibility is it in times of displacement or outplacement or replacement in any term. So again, it is reciprocal. It is a mutual responsibility actually that to give and get. And again, maybe we have to look at that, like in the past, we used to think like, okay, after 10 years, I want to become something. I enter into a certain discipline or area of study. However, nowadays, a lot of careers are not really associated or related to the area of studies. So again, we had to change. They had to change, and of course, a lot of like maybe interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary aspects and topics have been entered into the equation. And we always have to ask ourselves, and again, this has to do with our identity as well. What are we currently doing? What are we currently learning? So that this is the continuous improvement or whatever has taken place. We're looking into the experimental mindset. So again, it is the mindset of new skills, exploring new roles, exploring new industries. So again, it's not only the young people, it's us as well. So this is important to look into. We're looking at building more interactive, robust professional networks. This is totally in place. We're looking at ways of guidance and support, bringing in like elder or like I don't want to say older people, but basically expertise with whatever like new ideas and innovation. So it is this thing. So we're looking at different aspects, acknowledging, of course, the human and emotional aspect. So emotional intelligence is important. So we have to look into that and areas of growth. So it is my how the organization is perceiving us as individuals. What is the impact I'm adding? As we mentioned, what are you adding to the environment? So the environment is changing. What can you add? How can you leave a mark with whatever is happening? So they still can bring you, like in the upcoming projects, they can still hire you for future jobs and so forth. So automation, as Rennie mentioned, and all of you have touched upon, it is changing. but how we utilize it, how we integrate it with our knowledge, how we can, like again, branding myself as part of the new era, whatever is happening. So
right.
of course, we have to look at these aspects.
No, it's very interesting. You bring up some very important points, and when you think about the whole restructure of not only society but also like professional jobs as well, it's kind of like, okay, I guess my question is everyone going to be having a professional job, or could it be that everyone becomes entrepreneurs?
Well, Russell, I believe our future jobs, they all depend on our decisions today. So,
which goes back to what we said earlier. Yeah.
So you choose what you want to become in 3, 4, 10 years or more. And again, I have something I always mention. I teach entrepreneurship and I mentor students, and I'm in part of the ecosystem here in Bahrain proudly. But the thing is, I believe, and I've seen that happening with my students and even in startups, not everybody is an entrepreneur. I can still have the entrepreneurial mindset in some aspects. I can start a business. I can have a great idea, but I don't have to open the business. I can be part of a very successful ecosystem. I'm a faculty member. I always say I'm a faculty entrepreneur. So I practice my entrepreneurial.
That's a good idea. I like
yeah,
that.
totally. Because again, I still take risks. I have innovative ideas. I participate with my students. I introduce new ideas and innovations. I add value in different ways. I put the learning component within. So I have my way. I can easily open my business. I had my consultancy firm before being in academia. So it's different things. But it's the decision that you have to make. So I can still practice entrepreneurship in different ways. I need to know exactly where I can add value. What am I bringing to the table?
Which actually brings me to Lauren, which she was saying about creativity, and obviously even you brought it up too. So I guess let's naturally transition this to Lauren now, and thank you for sharing, Dr. Nahal. Which is, Lauren, when we talk about creativity, when we talk about jobs, when we talk about all this, restructuring and changing, I guess my question to you is, let's not do that question. Actually, I want to ask you a specific question about the creativity side of things and the entrepreneur aspect. Do you agree with Dr. Nahal as what she's saying in terms of that people are still going to have professional jobs, and that is going to be, the mindset of entrepreneurship is going to be integrated? Or do you potentially think that everyone is going to be an entrepreneur, so to speak, but are going to have, let's say, a whole entire army of AI agents working on your behalf? I know this is a bit of a controversial question. This is a bit of a futuristic question. However, this is kind of the world that we're heading into, so to speak. So, Lauren, from your perspective, when we're talking about creativity, when we're talking about careers, when we're talking about professional, etc., what are your thoughts on just that sort of futuristic question that I just asked there?
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to the individual. I think that if anybody has the desire to be an entrepreneur, it'll be a lot more achievable and manageable now because you have many more resources. And like you said, with AI agents, it'll be, you don't have to hire as many people. So like teams that used to be like 30 people can now be like 3 people because you have these AI agents that can do everything that people were doing before, but much faster. And you can build off of one agent. So if you start training an agent and what used to be a human decided like that they needed to move for some reason, or they need, like a family member got sick and they had to take time off and stuff like that, like these outside deterrents, I guess, for lack of a better word, or distractions maybe, are not gonna happen, or no one's gonna get sick. So you have a lot more resources to take an idea and just kind of run with it. So yeah, I think if you have the desire to be an entrepreneur, it's a safe way to go because then you don't have someone that can fire you. And yeah, so I do think a lot more people will become kind of like freelancers and solo creatives rather than trying to go work for a team, just because we have more resources and we have like, yeah, armies that we can create ourselves, and we can kind of tailor exactly to what we want to do, and we're not going to have like differing beliefs. Whereas like in a traditional workforce, if you do have differing beliefs, there's like the personal aspect that can cause you to maybe butt heads or not get along with somebody as well. But it's much easier to just kind of focus on work with agents.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for playing along, Lauren, and also answering my futuristic question. And second of all, I do agree with you in many aspects there. And it's just an interesting world that we're going into. And as Rainey says, remain curious. Always learn and remain curious. So anyway, Nawad, we'll jump over to you now. This question is specifically for you. How do people navigate the grief of leaving expertise behind to start again as a beginner? Nawad, I know you'll have the mindset for this. So I'm going to throw the question to you.
Yeah. So you mentioned that first of all, we should stay curious, but it's not easier sometimes, to be fair, because it's not mandatory to go outside the box. You know, sometimes it's good to be in your comfort zone, and some people don't want to change, and that is okay. It's not mandatory to go outside all the time. That it is more is true entrepreneur mindset, and is who I am. That is true also. So, when you are curious and you all the time this desire to learn. So I give you an example. Yesterday, I go to an exhibition, okay, about broderie. So very far away from the technology, broderie, and it's very from art, craft, and something like that. Amazing, to be fair. Me, I learned so much. I learned so much how people do product, take time, reflect. I say, wow, it's just amazing. To be fair, we never started that. It's not me. It's not me. However, when you decided to go on one way or to discover a new area, a new sector, you have to accept, and that is very difficult, to be fair. You have to accept that you are a beginner. You don't have at the beginning the expertise. It is the same when you start to do a prompt on ChatGPT or anything. At the beginning, you are very, I'm sorry to use this word, a stupid person, to be fair. Like children, you know, children start to learn and say, oh, I don't know, I make a mistake in the word. So it's very difficult because you have to accept you have an expertise. Yes, it's true. But in another way or another sector, you are completely a beginner. And that not everybody accepts that, because in terms of emotion, because it is linked to your emotion, to be fair. So it's not so easy, this feeling you can have in your body. And it depends your environment, clearly. If being around you, you have a very good environment who tell you, yes, try, you will discover. It is a massive difference than in environment say, no, don't try, it's not for you, and blah, blah, blah. It will be a nightmare for you. That it is a French mindset, probably. So
No comment. No comment. I plead the fifth, as they say in America.
When I create my company, many people told me I am completely crazy. Many people give me many reasons that I should not do that. And I am in tech. I am in innovation. I am a woman. But today, after 4 years, people, they come to see me and say, okay, Nanwen, you do it. Yes, I do it. I follow what I want. But I don't listen everybody. I listen who I am. I listen what I want. I accept to be a beginner. I am completely agree, Lauren, with you. When you are alone at the beginning, you are very creative. You have so many ideas because you don't have the other resources as a big company. So you have to be creative. But it's not possible for everybody. I'm sorry to say that, but that it is a reality. So, or if everybody can do it, but it will take more or less time according to people. So is there
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts on one, and yeah, very, very interesting. You brought some very interesting insights there. Even things for me to kind of think about as well. So, Rainy, I want to head over to you, and I want to ask you this question: how do professionals stay resilient when mastery is constantly moving, especially in the lovely days of AI?
Well, resilience is something that I am a bit of an expert in, so this is great.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something that I teach. I feel that we need a more resilient and self-reliant world, and so this fits in. So I think just overall, not just in the sense of where we are in technology, and there are a couple comments that I want to address in the chat. But anyway.
We'll jump to them in a second. Ask the question first, and then we'll jump to them after.
Yeah, total sidebar. I say, and this also kind of mirrors what Nolan was saying a moment ago, that everyone can learn. I teach that disruptions are opportunities, but all of that is a mindset, right? We can either, poor me, I'm being replaced, left behind, whatever that is, or we can take a look at it as, oh my gosh, look at the opportunity that's in front of me. I can do whatever I wish at this point. We have to change the way we look at the world around us in these moments of disruption with I don't know what other word to use, but things are, like you said, things are changing every day. So if we decide to sit in yesterday, yeah, we are going to be left behind. So we just need to change the way we look at it and go, oh my gosh, look at all the possibilities that are sitting in front of me. What I did yesterday it's no longer relevant, but holy cannoli, I have a million things in front of me that I can do.
True.
That's the way that we look forward and just embrace the possibility.
Yeah, I mean, as Noan was saying earlier, she was saying about, how, we don't know what's going on next year, 5 years. And, we've always been uncertain, so to speak, as in her words, uncertain in every year or every day that we kind of move forward. So to your point, Rainy, you have to, embrace it, like how you're saying, move forward, and also, just continuously to learn, continuously to adapt, and also continuously to be curious, and a multitude of other factors too. So I do agree with what you're saying. And also, when I hear things like universal basic income and universal basic services and all this sort of thing as well, when they're saying, people losing their jobs and everything, and, they want to implement these, it's kind of like, how do we really, is that really the way to go to handle the job displacement? Is there another way that we can handle it? These are all questions that we have to answer as we're on this road. Like I said, as we're navigating it, but also guiding the AI towards human values as well. So, these are things that I do think about behind the scenes, is kind of like, how do we navigate this as best as we possibly can, in a nutshell, really. So, but I completely agree with you, Rainy. So, thank you for sharing, and we go over to you, Dr. Nahal now. My question for you is, beyond technical certifications, what are the most undervalued? Oh, sorry, Rainy. Sorry, Dr. Nahal. Rainy, we forgot. What was the comments that you wanted to respond to quickly?
So somebody was talking about that we need more digital jobs and not more bricklayers. And I do want to tap back into, while yes, robotics are going to be doing some mundane tasks, human discernment will always have value. And in the trade, so I'm an interior designer too, so trades are really important. And yeah, maybe we're going to have some robots that can lay bricks, but are they going to be able to do the same things, discern the same things that the human mind can in moments, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I just have an argument with that. Like, I still think trades are valuable. I don't think everybody needs to tap into all tech all the time. I think, and Nolan was also saying it's art, right? And even Lauren was talking about the creativity. All of those things are the human touch, and they're super important. Very, very important.
I'll just quickly add to your point, and then we'll move to Dr. Howell. My point that I would add on top of that is Jensen Huang, right? He said that we're going to need plumbers and electricians, and now more than ever, because the trades are needed now more than ever to build out these data centers, etc. So, to your point, Rainey, are there opportunities where you can earn six-figure salaries within specific trades? Absolutely. Right, this is mostly the biggest time for some of these trades, more than ever. But again, it's also the displacement of all the other jobs is kind of like, okay, what's going to go on with the rest of the stuff? So it's that balancing act, like how I was saying. Dr. House, I appreciate your patience and thank you for being patient. I kind of want to continue the question with yourself, Dr. Howe, which is, beyond technical certifications, what are the most undervalued human-only skills in 2026? We talk about creativity, we talk about curiosity, we talk about all these different factors. You even listed a load yourself. So what is the most undervalued ones, though? Like, if you had to give a short list of even just three, what would be the most undervalued ones?
Okay, so of course, continuous learning is important. However, critical thinking and just to be critical to the tools that we're using, because one of the things, yes, AI or other tools might be correct at a certain incident, in a certain context. However, I need to challenge the information that I'm seeing, because I need to validate, I need to verify, I need to test. So if I take it for granted, and we have seen maybe some incidents, especially with young kids or young adults who don't know what they're talking about. I have seen some of my friends just like taking medical labs and just uploading and just taking the advice as if they are like professional physicians. So we need to actually have this critical thinking and just like believe in our competencies. We are still like above the technology. We are humans, but we know better. We know more. Of course, we can still go to other experts, but again, we have to trust humans as we trust technology. Of course. Yes,
Dr. Nahal, I'm gonna have to jump in because we're running out of time. But I do want to wrap before we round this up. I've requested another minute quickly, but before we round this up, what I want to do is I want to go to each and every one of you. One word in which you would like to see within the future, as in like a specific key skill that you would like to see. Maybe it's curiosity. You want that you continuous learning. Like, what is the one thing that you would like to see in the future? Maybe that's not a skill, but maybe something you want to see in a career. Like just one word, basically, of what you would like to see in the future. Basically,
critical thinker.
Critical thinker. All right, yeah. Lauren, over to you.
Empowerment.
That's a good one. Rainey?
Creative problem solving.
Oh, fantastic. And last but not least, the one.
Learn by playing.
And on that note, thank you so much, panelists. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining us. It's been a fantastic roundtable. And on that note, make sure you follow each and every one of them, by the way, on LinkedIn. And on that note, our Gather was well. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Over to you, Gatherverse team.
Hi,
my name is Keisha Brown, and I am speaking today about leveraging AI to increase access to justice. I'm an attorney with over 20 years of experience. I've built Justice Connection, the first Black attorney referral network in the country. I'm a civil rights attorney, mom turned legal tech entrepreneur who is deeply devoted to how do we look at, how do we think about, how do we imagine justice in a way that really connects with us personally, professionally, structurally, and institutionally, right? And so it's never really been about whether the law exists. We all know the law is the law, right? But it is a changing thing. Every year, our state legislatures, our counties, our cities, our Congress all come together at various points of the year and change the law. You have lawyers who are learning the law, who are practicing the law, who are litigating it and interpreting it and analyzing it. You have everyday people who need assistance navigating both the systems of the legal system, as well as the letter of the law, and being able to even understand their own role in it. And then we have it all mixed together, right? And how do we really think about how do we reach justice? Who gets to understand it? Who gets to act on it and do so in the most timely way, right? For governments, I think AI presents an incredible opportunity to modernize how legal information and public services are delivered. For many government forms, it may seem simple, but it is a complex web of making sure that if you don't fill it out, you could be denied your freedom, your records are incorrect, your business. There's so many things riding on the line of navigating government processes. And so governments have a tremendous opportunity, right, to incorporate plain language tools, guided legal triage, intelligent intake systems to help residents understand their rights, meet compliance requirements, engage public institutions earlier and more efficiently. And when governments partner on all different levels, right? Most government we think about maybe as Congress in this country, but really most of these laws are happening on the state and local level. And so it's imperative for ethical innovators to really be connected in order to reduce friction, increase trust, and expand reach exponentially, right? We have to think not necessarily who's in this silo and who's in that silo, but how do we partner in ways to ensure that justice reaches people who need it? And by people, I mean you listening, whether you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, you have a job, you don't have a job, you're a student, you're a mom, you're a parent, you're a doctor, you're a professional, you're a plumber, whatever it is that you do in this world and how you show up. You know, the law, the legal system is intertwined in so many regards in every aspect of our life, whether it's through our housing, healthcare, government services, you know, whether it's you're dealing with the police, whether it's your public safety, whether it's around accountability, whether it's around food, and everything is connected to the law. That's my superpower, right? That's how I see the world. And I am committed to really dedicated making sure that justice isn't sitting somewhere on a mountaintop where nobody can reach it, where we talk about it as if it's something a nice to have and a one day, but really pulling it down off that mountain and saying we are claiming that justice is within our reach. And one way to do that faster in ways that we hadn't previously considered is by leveraging technology, especially AI, right? And entrepreneurs sit at the center of this conversation. Most business owners that I meet with don't avoid legal fundamentals because they're reckless, or most families don't not talk about, you know, estate planning and family matters because they don't want to be bothered. But let's be real, the traditional legal support is often structured around full scope retainers, which can be costly. Lawyers are not as accessible as I think they could and should be. And so people avoid reaching out at earlier stages when, quite frankly, the issues tend to be less complex and the cost lower. AI-enabled tools can help founders and families understand everything from contracts to, you know, land ownership to custody intellectual property, employment, and employee obligations and responsibilities before you think about how this is a crisis, but really how to navigate proactively as an adult, right? As we are adulting. And it's something that I want us to think about, and I'd love to be in conversation with as many of you as possible around what does increasing access to justice look like, right? What does justice look like? And then how can technology aid in this process? It's not about having the answers to all three, but it is about being willing to sit with the questions and see what part of the answer comes to you. And then joining forces, connecting with others who are also in that space. And that's when you combine forces and magic appears. And it may seem frivolous. It may seem that's not that easy, Keisha. But I will say, nothing has been easy. When I went to Wellesley College, which at the time was the third-ranked college, liberal arts college in the country, it wasn't easy to me, right? When I later on went and I worked at one of the largest law firms in New York, that was definitely not easy to me. When I graduated or when I attended Georgetown University Law Center, that was by far not easy for me. But I will tell you, in my own personal journey of legal and non-legal experiences, anything worth having and fighting for is not often easy, but it is worth it. And so on this journey around what does justice look like? How do we increase access to justice? And how does technology connect all three and make it more efficient and effective? This is the charge, right? This isn't a place to come for all the answers. This is a place to find community to answer collectively, right? Justice doesn't scale by accident. It doesn't scale because of a collision, right? It scales because of collaboration. And that is what I'm inviting each of you to. Can't wait to hear from you. You can find me on LinkedIn at Keisha, Kisha, A. Brown, or at thelegalluminary.com, where I provide one-on-one sessions for folks. But this is not a commercial for me. This is about the future of justice, which isn't just legal, which isn't just about finding a lawyer or being a lawyer or talking to a lawyer. It is about us collectively, though, exploring and examining what the future looks like that we want that includes justice and our joy. Thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is Cecilia Lascialfari and I am a content creator, one of those who learned creativity in a very different way than it is today. When I was 15, I studied human anatomy by drawing nude models at school. My only data set was my brain. I learned creativity by feeding that container with experiences, informations, and connection and culture, real synaptic connections. 35 years have passed since then. Today, I create content in a world where creativity can be delegated to machines. Machines built on artificial synaptic connections. I can't pretend that artificial intelligence doesn't exist or that it isn't reshaping culture, art, and content creation. So I follow the evolution, trying to understand how speed, complexity, and autonomy are changing the way we create. And at some point, I asked myself if even for someone who lived this transition firsthand, it's hard to keep up humanly with the evolution of generative AI, now structured into AI agents and agentic systems that collaborate and act autonomously. What does this mean for creativity? And what do we do then with the pencil we still hold in our hands, the one we once believed could help us draw the world? It's a pleasure to be part of Gatherverse AI Summit 2026. Thanks for this invitation. We are living in a moment where AI is no longer something new. It is already embedded in how we work, create, decide, and communicate. And this is exactly why now is the right time to slow down and ask better questions. Over the past years, we have focused heavily on generative AI, tools that help us write, design, and generate images, videos, and ideas. Today, the conversation is shifting. We are entering an era of AI agents, systems that don't just generate outputs, but act, decide, and collaborate within workflows. This shift is not only technical, it is cultural. I like to explain AI agents using a very simple metaphor. Lego bricks. Each brick is small and understandable. One can be a model, another a rule, another a dataset, another an action. When you connect them, you don't just get a single output. You get a system that can act. The risk is this. If we focus only the final structure, for example, the machine, and forget how the bricks work, we lose understanding, control, and responsibility. In creativity, this matters deeply. Learning how to create is not only about the result, it's about the process, repetition, mistakes, time, embodiment. If we skip all the steps and jump straight to the final output, we may gain speed, but we lose awareness. Creativity doesn't grow through efficiency alone, it grows through time, friction, and learning. When we delegate too much, too quickly, we risk outsourcing not only tasks, but cognitive development. This doesn't mean rejecting AI. It means asking a crucial question. What should remain human and why? This is where transparency becomes essential. The EU AI Act, especially Article 50, remind us that people have the right to know when content is generated or influenced by AI. Transparency is not a limitation, it is a condition for trust. The same applies inside organization. AI governance is not compliance. It is a cultural practice. In 2025, the Future of Life Institute renewed its call to reflect to the pace of AI development, particularly toward superintelligence, not to stop innovation, but to align it with human values. Looking toward 2026, the real challenge is not whether AI will become more powerful. It will. The real question is whether we will become more conscious in how we use it. AI agents are not just a technological shift. They represent a shift in how we think, create, and take responsibility. Innovation and responsibility must grow together because the future of AI is not only technological, it is human and cultural. Thank you, Gatherverse, for inviting me at AI Summit 2026, and may our gather be well.
My name is Linda Porter, and today we'll be talking about how AI is a force multiplier for global equality, how emerging technology can help close, not widen, the opportunity gaps around the world. AI is often seen as a threat to equality, but what if also one of our greatest opportunities to level the playing field? Let's introduce the core idea. AI, when used intentionally and ethically, it can be a force multiplier for global equality, especially in education, healthcare, and entrepreneurship. AI is often portrayed as the big threat, taking jobs, increasing surveillance, who's watching me, or replacing human intelligence. People do not think for themselves anymore, but that's only part of the story. What is a force multiplier? I'm sure you asked yourself that question. In the military or organization terms, it's a tool or a system that significantly increases effectiveness beyond what's possible alone. In this talk, AI becomes a multiplier when it amplifies its human impact, especially for underserved communities. You all heard of all those underserved communities, small towns that don't have access to education, healthcare, jobs. So let's look at 3 key areas where AI portrays equality. Let's look at education. The problem: millions lack access to personalized, high-quality education. The AI solution: language translation. It can be a great access and a great tool to assist in those areas. Let's look at a little girl in Kenya. She doesn't have anyone to help tutor her, let's say in science or math, or maybe in another language. That's where AI can be a great innovator, is equality, the equality in action. Healthcare. We all remember 2020 when we was all, this whole world was closed down and we didn't have access to healthcare. What did we do? We had to depend on Zoom, telehealth as they call it today, which is still a part of AI. So it's still there to help us with radiation diagnostics, chatbots pre-screening, or it can even help us at health fairs and help speed up the process. You got that long line, AI can be beneficial when it comes to healthcare. What about economic empowerment and entrepreneurship? The problem: many small businesses lack the ability to hire employees, and they also lack consultants, capital in the global market. With AI solution, AI can help with writing business plans, logos, emails, marketing, translated marketing, and workflows. These are all great tools, and actually much more. For example, there's a lady in Brazil that used Epson on AI through her chat box with ChatGPT. So that is now helping her to open her market up to a global market. And it can do the same for you as well. AI can scale injustice as easily as it scales access. Equity requires inclusive data sets, ethical design, global competency, and global partnerships. These are all things that can be done with the system of AI in the global market. So let's close. Global equality isn't a passive outcome of AI. It's a design choice. As creators, educators, developers, and leaders, design for inclusion can be easily, the design for inclusion is now even more available to us. We can share tools in other languages, other classes, other geographies. Ensure the benefit of AI are not just global, but right here with us. So let's build AI that doesn't disturb the powerful, but empowers the rest of us. Thank you.
Retirement, a word born in the industrial age. Work for decades, then stop. Slow down, wait out the rest of your life. That was the promise and the trap of retirement. But today, in the age of AI, that mindset is outdated. We need something new, something alive, something that doesn't end with slowing down, but begins with renewal. That is retirement. Retirement was designed for a world of factories and fixed timelines. You work a set number of years, collected your pension, and step aside. That underlying assumption, your best years were behind you. That contribution ended when the clock ran out. Retirement became a pause button on life, a withdrawal from relevance. But think about it. Does slowing down really honor the wisdom, the creativity, the passion we have built over a lifetime? Or does it waste it? Retirement flipped the script. It's not about stopping, it's about starting again. It is about renewal, lifelong learning, and pursuing passion and purpose. In the AI era, knowledge is infinite. Opportunities are borderless and creativity is ageless. Retirement says you don't retire from life. You are entering it with new energy. Instead of measuring life by years' work, retirement measures it by curiosity sparked, skill mastered, and contribution made. It's about embracing technology as a partner, not a threat. It's about staying relevant, staying curious, and staying alive to possibility. Here's why retirement should be embraced. Human potential is lifelong. We are not machines that wear out. We are creators who evolve. Passion doesn't expire. The things that light us up, art, teaching, mentoring, building, don't vanish at 65. Purpose extends legacy. Retirement allows us to shape stories, mentor the next generation, and leave behind more than memories. We leave behind impact. AI is an enabler. With AI, we can learn faster, connect wider, and amplify our voices. Retirement is perfectly aligned with this era of exponential possibility. Retirement was about withdrawal. Retirement is about contribution. Retirement was about endings. Retirement is about beginnings. So let's be clear. Retirement belongs to the industrial age. Retirement belongs to the AI era. One is about slowing down. The other is about rising up. Retirement is not the end of work. It is the beginning of purpose. It is not about counting the years. It is about making the years count. This is the age of retirement, and it's time we embrace it. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Myself, I am Leela Venkat Sarash Gunpalli. I was working as an IT developer for past 8 years, and I did my master's in information assurance, and I started working in IT as a developer for. Initially, I worked in a healthcare domain, and I switched to a financial domain. I worked with a couple of banks and insurance company. Currently, I was working in a TD Bank. First of all, I would like to thank Gatherverse AI Submit to giving this opportunity for me to be a speaker of this event. So quickly, I'll share my screen and we'll go with my presentation today. So the topic I am covering today as part of this event is, and make the screen bigger. Okay. So today I'm going to cover about tokenization, how AI-powered tokenization helps in any sector, coming to banks or healthcare, and what is the importance of the tokenization. So basically, what the data tokenization is, all these companies or clients will always have the sensitive data, which is tagged to the customer's personal accounts or SSNs or bank accounts or credit cards or any sensitive data. So we use a process to replace this original data with tokenized data, even though if it is breached or the attacker make it way to the DB, they could not understand what exactly the data is. So this is the best way of safeguarding the sensitive information without getting into breach. So these are the few impacts with the analysis we did, and we did observe a fraud reduction of 40% and like cost cuttings of 30% and security enhancements of 35% with the tokenization. So basically the tokenization works is we input the sensitive data to the system and it generates a token which is stored in it vault. So I can give you an example. So we did have a credit card number which having all the numerics, which we would replace it like a token. So the process by which the risk is decreased, even though if the token are intercepted or breached, the real data remains protected and it never been exposed to the attackers. And these are the data security and privacy benefits. So we observed enhanced data privacy and improvement in the defense system. And coming to the budgeting, we did observe like a cost reduction to the this mechanism, and it also allied with the compliance guidelines of the each entity. So this is one of the case study where Visa, as one of the major client of all the banking sector, it did implemented tokenization earlier stages in 2014, and it observed a good results of fraud detection where compared to the different other techniques. And these are all the few daily basis we use it for all the digital payments, and nowadays the tokenization is being used in all these major companies to safeguard the user information being shared to an attacker or breach. So yeah, compared to data masking, it is more efficient where the real data is never been exposed or breached, and it which can have a good efficiency of working. So coming to the implementation, the tokenization, these are the few techniques we would I would propose while implementing this solution. So should have a clear strategy, and we should being updating all the patterns and the use cases with continuous monitoring, and we need to bring an awareness of how the system being attacked and what are the previous test scenarios where the attacks being used. These are the future developments in data tokenization. Currently, we are all migrating to the cloud technologies, and companies like Snowflake and major other companies, they already implemented these kind of tokenization. As we are also integrating with the more AI and machine learning these days, the data tokenization also plays a major role when you're migrating from the older legacy applications to these cloud-based architectures. And that's all for today. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I am Bena Zomiru, a tech ecosystem leader advocate for diversity in technology, and I'm very passionate about startups and innovation, especially in Africa. I am the founder of Women in Blockchain Africa, an awareness platform catered at empowering young girls and women in decentralized technologies across Africa. And I also do run AI automation agency aimed at helping businesses streamline their operations, improve efficiency, and scale through intelligent automations. So today, I'll be sharing a very interesting topic, the future of AI, and just permit me to share my screen. If you can see my screen, feel free to post on thumbs up. Right, it should be on now. So today I can mention sharing, discussing the topic, what's coming, the tech trends that will separate givers from followers. And then we would, if there is time, we have time to field some questions. If not, I hope you connect with me, obviously, to ask your questions if any. So allow me to start using figures. So before we even dive into how do we distinguish between leaders and followers, allow me to skim through some of the numbers and statistics and data. For someone who is an AI specialist and a data specialist as well, data has enormous capacity to transform the future, especially as a business owner and even in your daily activities. So according to statistics, currently the state of AI, it was recorded that over 100 million users have adopted this generative AI tools in months, not years. When we look at these numbers and correlate them or compare them with the history in technology, we could see how the emergence of AI has disrupted and transformed the entire technological ecosystem in just a few years. Still on the data, we can see here that private investment in generative AI hit over 33.9 billion in 2024. And you can see the references of these reports on the screen as well. It was also stated that 82% of professionals report weekly on the use of generative AI. And lastly, corporate AI adoption has doubled in 2 years across diverse sectors. So with this, we could see how that the emergence of AI has disrupted, shifted technology as a around the globe. And only those who latch into this technology would benefit and obviously become leaders. So allow me to take you briefly as to what are the requirements needed to stay ahead of the curve. And this is where we would draw the line between leaders and followers. Just to even add, I know many persons heard about the trend, the recent trend of the new Open Claw initiative that was launched pretty much 3 weeks, and how it was recorded that it was reported that it cost over $600,000 pretty much quickly. And that's the interesting thing about AI compared to other technologies that have emerged in the past. The quick adoption and the embracing of this technology is beyond human and what human can fathom. So let's quickly do a deep dive as to what would distinguish between how would we know those who are followers and leaders in AI. So this is where the gap starts from. Leaders do not wait for perfect clarity before they run their pilots, before they build internal capabilities. They treat AI and emerging tech generally as a strategy and not a side experiment. When we look at the followers, on the other hand, it's ideally just the opposite of what was indicated here for the leaders. They wait for proofs, they fear mistakes, and they just stay in the consumption mode. So they're the first to explore whatever new and emerging tools come out from the AI. And I believe that when we talk about GPT, any AI feature that comes up on Canva, any new, even OpenClaw, they're the first to just consume these technologies, and that's how you know followers. Another thing is that they do watch headlines and watch everyone else's move. They always want to play safe. And that is one key thing for you to realize at this point, whether you're a follower or you are a leader. And some highlights here in order for you to translate or move from being a follower to a leader would be one, speed. And I will try to simplify all of this as much as possible. So speed in this case means shorter cycles. Testing quickly, you're able to learn quickly, you're able to improve quickly, and then with this, I think speed is the game changer in this technology. Beyond you just watching the headlines, beyond you just knowing what is going on, the new improvements, the changes that are occurring on the daily basis from the news headlines, it's you being able to test these tools quickly and adapt or learn these tools quickly. Point number 2, I'll talk into skills. Skill, everybody should know this. It's pretty much straightforward. You don't need to know everything. And that's one reason people tend to remain in, or one side people need to usually remain in rather. You do not necessarily need to learn everything. AI is it is currently shifting things, and it's going to keep doing this in the near future. And there is no way you could learn everything at the go. No, by skill and own speed. I'm not implying that you learn everything. What I'm implying is that you do not even, all you need to do is get the literacy, just be literate about the use of these tools and make good decisions while making use of experimenting these tools. So another one will be systems. System is something that turns one with the experiment rather into repeatable advantages. Not just repeatable advantages like workflows, documentations, governance, and feedback loops. That is one who, for one who is looking forward to staying ahead, system structures are expected to be priority for you. And lastly, I will talk into community. Yes, I will not, someone who is keen of or knows the impact community does, especially for someone learning or wanting to stay ahead of the curve. So community matters in this case. People, it's better to learn in a circle than to learn in an isolated form. People move faster when they are plugged into ecosystems. Ecosystems where you share resources, you build together, you push each other versus you just building alone, being in silos and whatnot. So these are, in summary, 4 key points you need actually to, or that is required for you to stay ahead of the consistently progression of AI. So some of the practical tools and resources, builders are not be a builder, not just an influencer, not just someone who keeps using the tools. It's just a follow through of what I mentioned earlier. Join open source communities, contribute to them, like the open floor, head the contributions that have been made and the stars that have been given so far. So join open source communities, contribute as well. Startup ecosystem, be ahead of the trend, be ahead of the headlines whenever you hear in the startup ecosystem. Check newsletters, tech-based newsletters that give you updates to things. I even know of someone, a friend of mine, who has like an AI bot that repeatedly on a daily basis gives info and feedback as to what's the new thing happening in the space. Some tools you might need to know how to use is the AI Copilot, some really cool no-code automation tools, no-code tools as well, and some data tools. I know my time is fast spent, and I want to conclude this conversation today by just saying some quick things, right? This topic today is not just only about predictions, it's mostly about patterns, it's mostly about positioning and preparation. So the people that will win in this AI race are not usually people who build already, yes. They are people who make use of small, measurable experiments and learn very fast. But I also want to add that on a personal note, as much as we hear and even talk about these new tools and new strategies that emerge, we do need God, because tech can give you speed, right? But God can give you wisdom, can give you direction, can give you the capability to expand, right? Especially in a world that tech, AI is moving very fast. Discernment really matters. As you move in speed, as you move in acceleration, you do also need wisdom from God. So thank you so much for listening. I hope this was insightful. Do well and feel free to connect with me across my various social media platforms. You'll find me on LinkedIn, X, and Instagram with the name Very Nice of You. Thank you once again for listening, and enjoy the rest of the event.
I am Thomas R. Wilson of R&H Creative Advocacy, and today I'd like to talk to you really briefly about empathy-driven AI. And what I mean by this is AI that is utilized as a tool that is not separated from humanity, a tool that can help set up future generations, a tool that can help us better provide mental health care, better provide workplace cultures that are empathetic and considerate, but at the same time, it is a tool that should not be separated from humanity. It is a tool that we can establish and maintain for our future, but a key part of that is making sure that we utilize this technology, this tool, with empathy-driven mindsets, as well as accessibility-driven mindsets. It's crucial to acknowledge that AI is very much in this raw kind of formulaic mindset where it's being utilized. There's a lot of discussion around the technology, and there's a lot of frustration around the technology. But I want to emphasize that AI as a mechanism can be used to help set up those in need, whether it's lived experience with a diagnosis, whether it's seeking mental health care, whether it's establishing future generations in education. AI has to be maintained as a tool, and it cannot be separated from humanity. And it can be easy to blame AI. It can be easy to be frustrated at AI. It can also be easy to think of AI beyond humanity. But at the same time, when we create something as human beings, we have to think about our future. We have to think about the world in which we most want. And so when we think about AI, it's also crucial to think about accessibility, not just for those who can readily access the community, not just for those who have distinct and affordable care. We have to think about those who are forgotten, those who are left behind, and those we can better access who are in need. AI is, again, a tool, and with any tool, when we remove it from humanity, especially when it has leagues to go before it is formally accomplished as a highly sustainable tool, we forget about how it can impact us, how it can motivate us, how it can benefit us. And I know it's easy, especially in a world where so much money is the key motivator for a lot of people, to forget about humanity, to make decisions that cut people out. But I urge you not to do that. I urge you to think about your impact as you utilize this tool for your future and for the future of your community, for the future of those that are left behind, and for the future of those who will utilize AI as a tool to benefit their lives, to speak when they cannot, to write when they cannot, and to access a whole wealth of information that will help them be their best selves. So today, I encourage you to think about this, to carry forward how you might make steps forward, to utilize this technology to avoid tragedies, to better listen to the people around you, to help with those who may not hear as well as us, because this tool can be something that will uplift us. It can create a future where education is stronger, where more people will have access to things they've never had access to before. But at the same time, I also urge you to remember your responsibility and your actions with AI, and not to blame the tool for the things that we may fail at. With that, I do want to say really quickly, failure is not a weakness. It is not a problem. It is something we can develop into a strength. And just like AI, it is something we can perfect and maintain for our future. Thank you for your time. I am so excited to be at a future Gatherverse event, and I hope you have a wonderful, blessed day. Bye.
I have a greater concern that AI will replace the human mind and agency far more than a job. That what's being disrupted is not just a wage of income, but your own perspectives, your own thoughts and consideration, how you process, what you say, what's your next sentence, perhaps what you express here at Gatherverse. Are we losing the capability to speak from our hearts and minds? And are we finding ourselves inferior to a machine that we believe is more capable of getting a point across? And have we forgotten that our imperfections can be quite perfect? AI has tremendous upside. And there's a dichotomy to that. I would submit to you in consideration that AI can never supersede the human code, that which has been passed down through the ages of dispensation, through procreation. It can never replace the human heart. And it can never replace you. I hope that you've been afforded the opportunity to take something away from that which has been said and presented these past 2 days. We're so thankful to all of you at Gatherverse.live and our various social streams. We can't see all of you. We don't know who is all there, but we hope that you would join us on this journey on our various social platforms, or even stop in to say hi to one of the speakers that have been presented to you these past 48 hours. We have a series of summits that are coming up this month, and let alone this year. If you have something on your heart to say and on your mind, and if there's something that you urgently or eagerly or just simply waiting to share, apply to speak and join us. We have many people covering many topics in the coming months. As for these 2 days, our gather was well. And I'll leave you with this. we only have a little bit of time to build and to scale. At some point, sooner rather than later, these machines will have the capacity and the capability to be able to innovate way past what it is that we have known of what we could do and what many of us have desired to. In this furious race that we find ourselves in globally when it comes to scaling and building, adopting and subscribing, distributing artificial intelligence, platforms and protocols and applications, I hope that you would keep a consideration of accessibility and education. The technologists and vibe coders are in need to become educators far more than successful entrepreneurs. We always truly